It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. We've got a great panel for you. Ron Richards from All About Android. Christina Warren, Film Girl, is back from Microsoft. And Mark Milian of Bloomberg Business Week. I'm going to ask Mark about that big super micro story, see what he has to say about that. Google Plus, bye-bye, but why? And, of course, all the details from Google's Made with Google event. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 688, recorded Sunday, October 14th, 2018. Written to binge. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Molecule. Molecule is the world's first molecular air purifier that reduces symptoms for allergy and asthma sufferers. For $75 off your first order, visit molecule.com and enter the promo code TWIT75. And by FreshBooks, the ridiculously easy-to-use cloud accounting software helping small business owners thrive. Try it free for 30 days at freshbooks.com/twit. And by CashFly. Make this the last month your CDN bill gives you a headache. Join thousands of others like me who trust CashFly's reliable network. For a complimentary, detailed analysis of your current CDN bill and usage trends, visit twit.cashfly.com. And by Ring. Ring's Alarm Security Kit is a smarter way to protect your entire home. Go to ring.com/twit to learn how you can get whole home security for only $10 a month. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the latest tech news with some of the best people in technology. Mark Milian's here, Bloomberg Business Week. We haven't had you in ages. Thank you for coming up. And
thanks for having me.
It's always great. I have some questions for you, though, about Bloomberg Business Week. And I just want you to know.
Anytime.
I defended Bloomberg Business Week all week long, and I had to. We'll talk about that in a second. Also here from All About Android, Ron Richards. Hi, Ron.
Hey, Leo. Good to be back.
Nice to have you. You might have a little something to talk about. I guess Google released some stuff.
Big week.
Big week. Big week for the Goog. And from Microsoft, she's senior cloud developer advocate, but of course we love her as Film Girl, from formerly Mashable, Christina Warren. Hey, Christina.
Hey, Leo. Good to see you.
Wonderful to see you. I love the bright pink purse, I guess, behind you.
The purse is. So my office is now basically clean. So the last couple of times I've done Twit, I've had to do it from my office at Microsoft because my actual office is so messy.
Yay.
And I know people are like, oh, there are boxes in the background. No, this is great. My husband did this, but I have this purse wall behind me. So you can see my full collection of, I didn't realize I had so many Kate Spade bags until they were all in one place. And I was like, I do have a lot.
Aww.
Yeah.
We have much to talk about. Actually, it was really last week's story, but as long as we got somebody from Bloomberg here, I thought I'd ask about the super micro story, which, of course, really galvanized people late in the week last week, and we talked about it on all of our shows. The story from Bloomberg that Supermicro, which is an American company but manufactures its motherboards, and they're very widely used in servers in not only all over the world, but in the Department of Defense, Apple, Amazon, that Supermicro have been caught, or one of its suppliers have been caught, putting a surveillance chip on the motherboard. This story by people you know, right? Jordan Robertson
and Mike Riley.
Had 17 anonymous sources, seemed very well sourced. We were talking before the show. You have a brand new EIC there came from The Economist, who you said oversaw.
It's been a couple of years, but he's
very highly respected in the industry. And I've been saying all week long, Bloomberg is so prestigious. There's no way this is the only way you could say. You'd have to say it was fabricated, and there's no way that's possible.
We have nothing to gain by doing that and everything to lose by either fabricating something or even handling this irresponsibly. We knew what a huge story this was throughout the reporting, which had been going for well over a year, and spent months and months talking with the companies and getting their denials and repeated denials and doing more reporting. And everything I know about the story is that it's 100% solid, but it's frustrating that we couldn't get anybody to go on the record. That's kind of like the nature of reporting on topics of national security.
You're never going to get somebody from these agencies.
It's the subject of a top secret government investigation, but
people risk jail time if they talk to you on the record.
I mean, look at what the Trump administration is like. Their crackdown on leakers. Like these people have nothing to gain by putting their names on the record. But our reporters had 4 very well placed, independent U.S. officials who all said Apple was specifically a target of this, despite Apple saying it wasn't us, Amazon saying it wasn't us. The reporting was solid, and at some point we just had to go with what we knew to be true.
It almost becomes, for the rest of us, the unwashed masses, a they said story, because there's nothing to support it in either direction. I completely agree, and I've said this. I'm not saying it to you to kiss your butt, but the Bloomberg Business Week. But you don't put this on the cover unless you're absolutely sure. But that raises the question: how can Apple say on this we can be very clear? We've never found malicious chips. We're unaware of any such investigation. And many people on our shows said Apple is not the kind of company that would lie about this. So now we've really got a conundrum.
Yeah, I mean, our reporting, not to my knowledge, shows that Tim Cook was directly involved in reporting this to government officials, or that even their chief security officer was involved in doing that. But our reporters talked to company insiders who were knowledgeable about the specifics of this attack.
Yeah.
And to government officials who were knowledgeable of Apple being a victim of it.
To their credits, Jordan and Michael published the statements from Apple, Amazon, Supermicro. China denied it. The Department of Homeland Security kind of gave it a lukewarm denial, saying, well, we currently don't think that anything like this is going on. Honestly, the real bottom line and the important thing that this story brought up is that this stuff does happen. We know it happens. We don't know the specifics about Supermicro, but you don't need to believe that it happened at Supermicro to know that this happens all the time, that the U.S. does it as well as other governments, that often it's done in transit, not necessarily at the factory, but that firmware hacks, hardware hacks happen, because you want to target an attack as server hardware is on its way to a company in transit. We know that happens. We know the NSA has done it. It was part of the Snowden released materials. The NSA has done that. So
for the purpose of this reporting, we had a mountain of evidence of the Supermicro attack and how prevalent it was and how vulnerable they were to something like this. But yeah, I think the point that the security community, who have been very skeptical about the story, as many people have, but the point that they've been trying to make is, regardless of whether or not this is true, it's a problem across the supply chain. The supply chain is a black box to everybody.
Right.
Even the companies that put their logos on the products have no idea many of the things that happen in the supply chain. It's part of the reason why, we'll often find out about what's in the next iPhone, or, because we've set up a system where everything is farmed out to hundreds of different companies, and anything can happen in between the time that the components are manufactured to the time that they're assembled to the time that they make it to the States or wherever you live and to your doorstep.
Brian Krebs, you saw, we flashed it up briefly, said that supply chain security is the whole enchilada, but the problem is nobody's willing to pay for it. We already save so much money by offshoring this stuff that nobody's even thinking about bringing it back to the United States. Bruce Schneider's got a new book, Push Button to Kill People, or something like that, in which he talks about the fact that security at this point has to be government. In fact, he wrote an op-ed in the New York Times that he said this has to be government regulation, because no company is going to spend the money to properly secure its hardware. With IoT on the horizon, with self-driving cars on the horizon, it becomes more than your computer's crashing or they're stealing your credit card. It becomes a serious problem. And I don't know if we have either the will or the ability to fix it.
Another important point to make on that is, another one of the conspiracy theories around the story, because it does rely to a large extent on government officials, is that, this is part of the Trump populist
disinformation
push to bring,
story. Yeah.
Yes. It's important to note that the reporting on this story and a lot of the evidence came during the Obama administration, and those conversations and the reporting continued into the Trump administration.
That's what's fascinating. This is a 3-year story. These guys have been working on this for some time.
Yeah.
Started in 2015. So, yeah, this isn't a push by the government to bring manufacture back to the United States. That's not going to happen anyway.
And it doesn't even necessarily need to happen for at least part of this problem to be resolved. I mean, a lot of companies could just take more responsibility, more ownership over the process by owning the factories in China that manufacture these components and owning the assembly plants, or at least being more directly involved in the process, whereas now it just goes to dozens or hundreds of different vendors who all have a piece in things, and then it's assembled somewhere else. And
in 2007, the Department of Defense initiated a program with IBM called the Trusted Foundry Program, specifically to address this supply chain issue, to create trusted suppliers, whether they're in the U.S. or elsewhere, to secure manufacturing infrastructure. That was 11 years ago. I don't know where the Trusted Foundry Program is today, but we've seen this coming as we've internationalized manufacture. This has been coming. So there's no question we've got a problem.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, just as somebody who's a complete outsider, I'm kind of with Julio insofar as I'm not ready to say that this is something that didn't happen, because knowing how journalism works and having been a reporter for many years, you don't put a story like this on your cover unless you feel like all your boxes are checked. But as a reader, there were lacking technical details. And I think that is maybe that's the wrong focus, but I think that's where a lot of the focus has been on this, because we don't know what the technical details are and what things might be right or what things might be wrong, because again, it seems like, most of these sources came from intelligence and not necessarily from cybersecurity. And so that's where I think this gets muddled, but that might be focusing on the wrong things, because as you're saying, whether this story is 100% accurate or has been, told the full way or not, these supply chain issues, these black box issues, these kind of accounted for threats are realities and are things that we should be realizing are our reality and not something we should just continue to ignore.
Yeah, I mean, we wrote this story for a general kind of business reader and not so much for the security community. That Jordan has been covering cybersecurity for many, many years. He knows the topic better than anyone I know. I mean, he nerds out super hard on this stuff, which is probably part of the reason why some of the sources, the insiders at the companies in particular, trusted him with this type of information because they knew he understood the particulars. So he will, if you get him on the show, he would probably nerd out super hard on all the specifics of it. But for the purposes of the story that we were writing, it's for a general audience.
That was one of the criticisms, though. You're right, Christina. Where's the detail? Where's the detail? That's not their job. That's not Bloomberg's job.
No,
so
it's not.
It's encouraging to hear from you, Mark, that Jordan knew the detail. It just is not going to make it in the story because that's not the audience.
Which is understandable, but unfortunately, with a story with this level of kind of stakes, it makes it hard for people, especially when you have denials and they're very well couched, very well written legal denials. It's hard for people to I guess do that and I guess maybe understand the extent of things. And I've even said the same thing that you've said, Mark, it's written for a general audience. I understand that, but I think that's why some of the criticism has been so focused on the technical details, because regardless of what audience it's been written for, not having those things there leaves a lot of things open to interpretation. And that lets people either off the hook or start extrapolating things that may or may not be true. And that's just, unfortunately, the nature of these types of things when, you're writing for a specific audience and you might not have those, especially when you don't have people on the record, how you get that across.
There is, and the other thing that I think is true, that if this really happened, you're gonna see over time people step forward and say, yeah, I have one of those motherboards. Here's the chip. Unless spooks have gotten to them all, which also is possible. There is some evidence. There was a follow-up story this week, both Jordan and Michael on this one as well, of hacked Supermicro hardware found in U.S. telecom. And this came from a security expert named Yossi Appelbaum, who was brought in by this telecom. He could not reveal the name of the telecom. He's formerly with the Israeli Army Intelligence Corps. And he's a hardware security guy. He was brought in to scan data centers belonging to this telecommunications company. And Appelbaum said, yeah, I've seen this before, and I see it, and I did see this with Supermicro. He says, though, that Supermicro is a victim, but so is everybody else. It's not Supermicro didn't do this on purpose, and that doesn't surprise me, that maybe one of the suppliers was suborned, bribed, or forced into doing it. So all the AT&T said, no, not us. Verizon said, not us. Sprint says, not us. T-Mobile didn't respond. Doesn't mean it's them. But this is the kind of corroborating story I'd expect to see more of over time. And as people step forward and say, yeah, we found this, that's gonna settle it as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, well, that was my main takeaway from the article, just in both the specifics of that story as well as stories to come, is this the tip of the iceberg? And is now more proof comes out once the article is in place, and then you let the people who are doing the technical analysis do the technical analysis. And I've got to imagine that this is not going to be the only type of story that comes out of the supply chain that's going on in China. And
there's just no question that the moral of the story is absolutely intact, which is we have to secure the supply chain because there's huge risks. That a state actor could use it for cyber warfare, could use it for industrial espionage, or both. And there's huge risks as we get more and more automated. That was Bruce Schneider's point. And we're moving into a world where we're not going to be driving the cars. The computers are going to be driving the cars. Well, and if they're hackable, that's a problem.
I worked at an IoT company a couple of years ago that has a device that they literally designed themselves and then brought the prototype to China and showed it to a supply chain manager. And they came back. They said, yeah, we can make this for you. They don't know what's in their device.
Right.
They don't know every chip that's in their device at all. And they claim they designed it. They didn't, there's so much gray area in especially IoT, but in all the work that's being done now in hardware and with China, it's cheap for a reason, everyone. I mean, that's, so
right.
We welcome that. We embrace that. China became the world's manufacturing arm, right?
Right.
And it is actually powered huge innovation. I mean, you can do exactly that, Ron. You can come up with a great idea, not know how to implement it. It can be made and manufactured at scale, affordably. By the way, whether Apple admits to this or not, a lot of this can be attributed to Apple because when they brought the iPhone to China, and this is Tim Cook's expertise in supply chain, they really created an amazing industrial capabilities in Shenzhen, China, and specialized machines to do all sorts of things. Those chips, the accelerometers, the barometers, all the different chips in a smartphone today, you can really trace it back to 2007 when Apple created the iPhone and started making this stuff at scale and taught China how to make it at scale. And as a result, we're getting all sorts of great stuff. But we better secure it.
We're getting great stuff in the short term. I think for now, we're finding out what the long-term ramifications of this is going to be.
Now, here's the question. Isn't it China risking its integrity and its future as an industrial, as the manufacturer of the world by doing, if they were to do this?
But where are people going to go? I mean, what's the alternative? Like, we literally, no, because
Samsung makes its phone in Thailand and South Korea.
But it's still Foxconn and it's still a lot of these same companies. So, okay. So maybe China loses its foothold, but that doesn't mean that these problems are going to go away because the profit motive, which is what's behind a lot of this, and maybe the other types of motive still exists. A lot of the times when you have, when you hear this all the time from companies who they will put together a prototype and they'll design a board and they'll have somebody in Asia make it, and then it comes back and it's not what they ordered, and they've had lesser parts done, and they have to pay somebody to actually be on the line and watching things and doing spot checks. And even then you have to make sure that the person who you're paying isn't being paid off by someone else, and it can be really complicated. I don't necessarily know if those issues go away if you just go to Thailand. So I don't really know what the alternative is because, as you said earlier, the manufacturing is not coming back to the United States. that's over. A, we don't have the capacity and supply to do it. B, we don't have the skilled workers. C, the amount of money that it would cost. Unless you can prove that there are very, very, very real, tangible security implications, I don't think that anybody is going to be convinced to do that.
Well,
in exchange for the pot.
And the kind of stuff
also,
that the administration is talking about is really just bringing assembly back.
Right.
All the parts that they're assembling are still manufactured overseas.
And also, if you just because you bring manufacturing back to America, I mean, I'm an Italian American from New York. Corruption looms in America just as much as China.
Exactly.
You know, like it's.
Completely. And then you just have corruption, but maybe at higher prices. So yeah, I mean,
everything gets more expensive, including the bribes.
So I guess my point is, but you were saying, what does this do for China? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that this is an interesting opportunity maybe for some other nations to kind of try to be a hub for that. But it took China a long time to become what it's become in manufacturing too. And so it's not one of those things where you can just shift to another place overnight.
Yeah.
But also you got to wonder what are China's primary motivations here? Were their primary motivation to be the lowest cost manufacturer for the world, or was it to be the lowest cost manufacturer in the world in order to do X, Y, and Z to get political agenda across? Right. Like they're a socialist nation. I mean, they're not. I mean, aren't they not looking for profit? Right? Like, isn't that the whole point of the country? So why, you got to wonder. We can't look at their politics in their country and what they're doing as their motivations the same way we do, because it's a completely different starting point.
Oh, that's a really interesting question. Maybe and we know that the Chinese government is able to think much more long term than any of us. Maybe 20 years ago they said, it'd be great. It'd be great, guys. Joanne Lai said.
It would be an epic long game.
I mean, it really would be.
But they play the long game. We know they play the long. Look at their.
It's going to make a great movie someday.
Yeah.
Without lots of great movies, great TV show. The Americans, the equivalent of The Americans, in 30 years is going to be this. Yeah.
It'll be a lot of fun. I wish I were around in about 40 years when all the truth comes out about what happened today.
Well, and the movie will be in Mandarin, so that'll be fine.
That'll make it. I've been watching The Man in the High Castle. I know how this all ends. Yeah. Let's take a break. When we come back, there is a lot to talk about. This was kind of a product release week in a big way from not just Google. Facebook released a new camera phone. Problematic in a few ways. We'll talk about that in a second. First, though, a word. We got a great panel. Mark Milian from Bloomberg Business Week is here. What's your beat these days? Technology?
Technology, nice. Yeah.
They took you off the global beat and brought you back home?
I edited our coverage of startups and venture capital.
Nice.
So focus on the private markets.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, fun beat. Film Girl is here. Christina Warren from Microsoft, Senior Cloud Dev Advocate, but of course, a long-time commentator and observer of the world of tech. Always a pleasure. And
it's great to be here.
I don't think, Ron, have you done this show before? This can't be your first time.
I think this is like my second or third time. Nice. I mean, it's been 4 years, but
my God, I'm sorry.
I forgot why the last time, but I think my first time was after the Google Glass, my overreaction to Google Glass.
Anytime anything comes, did you say it was good or bad? Here's the test.
Well, I said it was the greatest thing ever. I was far more
not your fault, my friend. I bought one.
A lot of people were sucked into that. A lot of people were.
I bought one. I never wore it. I gave it to Jason, but I did buy one.
And I believe Jason's is the one that I tried, and I believe that was my holy cow moment.
Actually, on Friday, I got to try the Magic Leap, and we can talk a little bit about that. Because
I want to hear about that.
This was very interesting. We did an extensive demo on the new screensavers. I spent about an hour and a half talking to Nicole Lazaro, who is a game consultant to game companies. She consulted with Myst, with Maxis on The Sims. She helps game companies make their games more fun, and she's had a lot of interesting things to say about the Magic Leap. So we will talk about that too. Our show today brought to you by by the way, Ron is the host of All About Android. I forgot to mention that. Brought to you by, and every 4 years we bring him in whenever Google does something. Actually, Google did a lot of things this week. You're going to be busy today, Ron. I was
the one that went to the event. That's all.
You're going to have to defend. You're going to have to defend Google a little bit, I think, on this show. Our show today brought to you by Molecule. This is kind of like the Apple of air purifiers. We love our Molecule molecule. I got one. Lisa used to wake up in the morning with headaches. We had moved to the country, and she'd never had allergies before, but she'd wake up every morning with headaches, and we figured it's the pollen, it's the dust. I tried different air purifiers. We finally got a molecule because it's very different than the HEPA filter air purifiers we had been trying. Turns out HEPA technology was invented during World War II to get big particles out of the air, and all it does is it traps the particles in the purifier, and you know, okay, it's a start, but molecule goes to the next level. So they also trap the big particles, but they also use something called PICO, photoelectrochemical oxidation. This was technology funded by the EPA. They've verified the technology in university laboratories like the University of South Florida's Center for Biological Defense, University of Minnesota's Particle Calibration Laboratory. The PICO technology actually traps airborne pollutants, and it can trap stuff 1,000 times smaller than the HEPA filter. Things like mold, bacteria, viruses, even airborne chemicals like VOCs, you know, the volatile organic compounds emitted, like formaldehyde, emitted from carpeting and paint. It can actually, it not only traps it, but then it burns it up. It actually destroys it. So instead of like making a collection of all the bad stuff in the air, which a HEPA filter does, this gets rid of it. It is really amazing. Lisa's headaches went away. In fact, we know it works because when we travel, or when the molecule's been turned off, sometimes like our son comes in and turns it off, we know because the next morning she wakes up with a headache and we go, check the molecule. Yep, it was off. We cannot live with that. We like it so much we got one for the studio. If you're in studio, you're breathing the better air here because this studio is completely sealed. There's no windows. And, you know, sometimes they'll tar the roof. They're painting and stuff. It's really nice to get rid of all that stuff, get it out of the air so I'm not breathing it, you're not breathing it. We got one for our son, too. We love the molecule. And Lisa's headaches are gone. It really works. Easy to use. It's got a clean, sleek design. We pair it to our phones. You don't have to because it's got controls on the top, but I like to pair it to the phone because then the phone will order new filters when necessary, which is really cool. You can do it on the Wi-Fi or using Bluetooth if you want. That is a really great deal. But I've got to tell you, you got to try this. You can try it at no risk to you if you go to Molecule, MOLEKULE.com and use a promo code TWIT75, molecule.com. And if it doesn't work, you can return it and get your money back. Absolutely. Molecule.com. Offer code is TWIT75. That's going to save you $75 off your first order. They really reinvented the air purifier. This is a modern way to get great air. We have, we have well water, so I have lots of processing on our water to make the water great. We process the air now too to make the air great, and it just makes a huge difference. Molecule, MOLEKULE.com. Let's see. Google had an event. I almost want to start. Let me start with the Wall Street Journal, and then we'll get to the Google event. Wall Street Journal, I don't think they like Google that much. I think there's kind of this animosity towards Google that might have something to do with the fact that, all newspapers are suffering because Google and Facebook are eating them alive in advertising. Wall Street Journal originally wrote that Google had a data breach, and I think correctly revised the headline. Still, it's a little bit of a, nasty headline. Google exposed user data, feared repercussions of disclosing to public. What happened back in the spring, according to Wall Street Journal, and Google admits this, Google has been actually going through they call it a root and branch assessment of their security with regard to third-party applications. As you know, you can use Google to enable a third-party application to go through your Gmail, for instance. Just recently, Google said, we're going to stop letting companies do anything but mail-specific applications in that regard. So they've been going through all of this stuff. They discovered in the spring there was a flaw in the Google Plus, that's their social network API, that potentially would allow a third-party developer to use the API to get at your private profile information. Now, if you've used Google Plus, you create a profile. They really pushed this for a while a few years ago. Use this as your home on the web, everything you want to. And I was looking at my profile after the story came out to see, well, what private information is there? And it's not your social, it's not your credit cards. In my case, it was my home address and my personal phone number. And the reason I put it in there is because you could set up a profile to share different levels of access, and close family and friends, I wanted them to always have my correct address and phone number. So Google said, for privacy reasons, we've destroyed the logs of how this API is used every 2 weeks. But, so we can't be sure nobody's used it, but to the best of our knowledge, no one has used this. No one even knew about it. So we fixed the bug. There was no data breach. We fixed the bug. The Journal basically found emails saying, let's not say anything about this, and used this to kind of really hit Google. But my question for you guys, is it below the belt? And here's why I will say it's not. Companies do this all the time. When Microsoft finds a flaw in Windows that potentially, allows a hacker to get into your system, it doesn't announce it, it fixes it. Otherwise, every minute, Microsoft is saying, oh, yeah, we found another one. Let's reveal this. Let's reveal this. Let's reveal this. They fix it. That's the normal process. Now, admittedly, Google has a little bit of a fiduciary responsibility because they're holding your personal information. So, in fact, GDPR said had this data been breached, had they found evidence that somebody was using this, they would have had legally a requirement in Europe to reveal it. That's
the distinction. This wasn't a breach. This is an open hole in an API that there's no proof or no knowledge that anybody used to exploit. So,
frankly, no one was using anyway. I mean, if we were going to be really real, the number of Google Plus apps, genuinely, were A, not significant, and B, the amount of, the vector here is significantly smaller than it would be for, say, if this were like a Facebook app, for instance.
Yeah, I should say it has opened the window of opportunity for Google to shut down Google Plus.
Well, by the way, but the weird upshot of this is Google says, well, fine, then we're taking our ball and going home. Project Strobe, which is this security assay that they're in the midst of, they said finding number 1, we found this API flaw. So result number 2, we're going to close Google Plus in August.
Which I got to say, as a moderator of a vibrant Google Plus community, I feel really bad about. And
you still use it on All About Android for your Android app arena.
The All About Android Google Plus community is amazing. They're on there every day. They're posting stories. They're talking. They vote in our app polls and stuff like that. And so now we've got to find a new playground to go play in because it was one social network that actually was for the right people and they used it. Admittedly, that's just it's a small number compared to the massive billions that are on Facebook and things like that. But still, it's a bummer that we have to go find a new place for our voting mechanism.
Yeah.
I think even if. Granted, virtually nobody was using Google Plus, but they did push hard for a long time to get people to create profiles and plug information into it.
Absolutely.
So I have no idea what was in my Google Plus account. It could have had my address and phone number.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Oh no, I think that the potential here was real. I also think that to push back a little bit on what you said, Leo, your Microsoft analogy isn't completely wrong because obviously, and yes, disclosure, I work at Microsoft, but I'm not speaking for them, and it's very common when companies have
use Apple. It's the same.
Well, yeah, or whatever, exactly. But but it's very common when you have vulnerabilities that you don't immediately disclose. You fix it and then you talk about it. The slight difference here is
not even talk about it. Apple doesn't tell us all the vulnerabilities.
Hey, I've handled a lot of PR kind of situations. Sometimes you go, hey, let's not talk about this in the public for a good reason.
Sure. Well, sometimes, okay. But if you have this amount of thing, as you were pointing out, the GDPR thing, in this case, Google probably would have to disclose the way that they did, with or without the Journal article, just because of the Cambridge Analytica scandal. So that's in the crosshairs. Yes. And B, Google is on probation and had to pay that huge FCC fine because of Google Buzz.
That's true. They have a consent decree. You're right.
So it's exactly. So to me, that makes this slightly different. And that's why I think if you're a publication, regardless of your rationale for why you may or may not be mad at Google, if you see documents and emails and look, somebody internally is clearly leaking them because they're uncomfortable, that are making it look like we might not be letting this be public in the light of the Cambridge Analytica stuff, the ongoing kind of, push for more information about how this information is used, and the fact that there's a consent decree because of the massive fine that you were levied over Google Buzz, it's definitely in Google's best interest regardless of when they do it, to let people know exactly, to say, hey, look, whether you're going to use it as an excuse to shut down a dying social network or not, you should say, look, this was what happened. We fixed it. We don't have any evidence of any of this happening, but this was a thing that was out there.
I mean, keep in mind, this vulnerability was open for 3 years, and they said nothing. And I had missed the part of the story where you had said that they were deleting their logs every 2 weeks. I mean, how could they possibly know over those 3 years whether anybody stole data and is now selling it on the black market?
The journal says Google was unable to determine which users were affected, what types of data may potentially have been improperly collected. Two people briefed on the matter said the bug exists since 2015. Google says the journal says Google believes 438 applications, so it's not an insignificant number, had access to the unauthorized Google Plus data. They did, in fact, as part of the Project Strobe investigation, check those apps to see if any of the developers had previous complaints against them, determined that none of them looked suspicious, but the leaker said the company did not call or visit with any of those developers. They didn't follow up on that. Internal lawyers advised Google that it wasn't legally required to disclose the incident to the public. This happened before GDPR was in effect, by the way. But because the companies didn't know what developers may have had what data, the group also didn't believe notifying users would give any actionable benefit to the end users. And the legal and policy staff said, let's not publicize this. It might attract regulatory attention.
Which is within their right. Like, that's why you have lawyers to tell, I don't think that there's, I mean, aside from the GDPR and the EU stuff, which is just something gets bananas in general, the company has no obligation to reveal inner workings, unless there's a, I feel
it wasn't a breach. I guess that's the point.
Exactly.
But to Mark's point, as far as we know,
right,
it wasn't a breach.
Yeah,
as far as Google knows,
the journal was transparent to say that they had only used the word breach in a print headline, and they retracted that and corrected the article.
Breach was the wrong word.
Breach was the wrong word because they don't have evidence of it,
right.
But we don't have evidence that there wasn't a breach either.
It's not as strong a story, though, if you said Google had a bug that it fixed.
Sure, that's true. Yeah, breach would be a stronger story, but this still frightens me that the third most valuable company on earth had a tremendous vulnerability in its system that for 3 years that it chose not to disclose.
I don't know how tremendous, because Google Plus, it wasn't everything Google knows about you. It was just what you actually put in your Google Plus profile.
Well, and
you should look at your profile to see what's in there.
Isn't it shut down now?
No, not till August.
10 months. It's going to take 10 months to do it.
I immediately went to say, what they have learned? And all the worst case with my home address and phone number, which I know is not. I mean, yeah, I agree with Mark. It's bad, and it's even worse optics for Google to say. I think
that's the worst thing.
Yeah,
I think the optics here are worse than anything else, and I think that the optics, in context of all the other things that are happening, regardless of whether it was legal or not, I mean, fine. That's not necessarily always the best decision to do something like this, because then you have to play cleanup when you're already battling regulators.
Right.
It's maybe not ideal. I don't know. I would say, I think even in addition to maybe the information be outdated.
Mark has nothing in his profile.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. No, I click edit profile to see what's in there, and I get an error message. It won't even tell me.
Oh, well, you might have deleted yours, or might not have been active.
Something's not right. Try again.
I love Google's error messages.
I hate that error page, by the way. There's no help.
He's on a Chromebook. Oh, no, you're on an Apple. You're on an Apple. Okay.
But all I was going to say, though, is that the number of apps, I mean, 438, but genuinely, if you looked at app usage, I mean, I think they'd shut down that API a long time ago. And so it's possible that somebody could have given access and somebody might have allowed them to do that. But again, this isn't like, apps were never a big part of that platform, even when they were forcing everyone to create an account. It wasn't a big part of the experience. So that's, I think, the good thing for end users who might be worried about their data. The likelihood of your stuff being breached, to me, seems low, just because the number of people actually using applications was low.
Yeah, you might remember that one of the things Google Plus never allowed was an app to post on your behalf. They, unlike Twitter and Facebook, you can't auto post to Google Plus. You had to actually go to Google Plus and post.
And the thing about this is that this is a drop in the bucket compared to what Facebook has done. Like if you look, like if this is potentially 500,000 users, where Facebook has been in the millions of users. I mean, with an actual breach. Yeah. And the other thing is that this is something that came out from one person who leaked stuff, out there, and then Google responded. I guarantee there's got to be tons of stuff like this that we just don't know about. So it's flawed. It's flawed. They made a mistake. They did what they can to fix it. I think the Project Strobe blog post was really well written, and the whole approach they're taking to deal with it, and the ramifications of shutting Google Plus down. That's shutting down a major product, whether anybody was using it or not. But still, it had usage. So,
if you want to know if you were impacted by the Facebook breach, Facebook's now saying approximately 30 million accounts actually had information, or I guess the breach was that somebody unauthorized could get the access token to your account. We have now determined, says Facebook, that this is as bad as you can get, that attackers used access tokens to gain unauthorized access to account information from approximately 30 million Facebook accounts. That means somebody with your token can not only read everything, on your Facebook page, including whatever information you post there, but post as you. And so that is pretty bad. What you can do is go to the security center, the Facebook security center, and they have a notice there. Oh, I'm not logged into Facebook because I deleted my account. But if you have a Facebook account, it would say whether you were impacted. I did actually log into my account, reactivate my account, and found out that I was not affected by it. But it's another good reason to get. You know why I had to activate my account? Because I bought a Facebook portal. I bought 2 of them. Yeah, I'm an idiot.
To talk to someone else, right?
Right.
Like you need
well, I found out later
both
that
cans
you can talk to anybody
right?
on Facebook or to anybody with Facebook Messenger. But in order to pre-order this thing, I had to activate my Facebook account.
Jeez.
And spend a not insignificant amount of money because I'm not going to buy the little one. I want the big one. If Facebook's going to follow me around the room, I want it to have the best possible camera.
With a 15-inch screen. Jeez.
Yeah, it's a giant screen. It rotates. It's $349, but I did get $100 off because I bought 2. It is essentially a FaceTime camera, right? It allows you to make video phone calls. It has Amazon's Echo built in. But here's the thing that maybe Facebook might want to think twice about this. The camera can automatically follow you around. So
which happens with a lot of meeting systems and other types of cameras. It's not a unique thing. It's creepy in the context of Facebook creeping us all out, but it's actually a useful feature. Anybody who's ever had those in conference rooms, like Logitech makes them, other companies do too. They're actually really great.
They follow you around too. Because what they're doing is a 4K image, and then they can zoom in on any part of that 4K image. So the camera basically is getting the whole room. Facebook does say it's, I might point out, private by design. They offer a plastic clip you could put over the camera.
So you don't have to use a piece of gaffer tape.
Yeah, that's by design. The microphone apparently does not have a piece of plastic to put over it. I have to review it, so I bought 2 of them. Anybody want to buy it off of me?
What I don't understand is I understand Facebook has millions of users, but are people actually wanting to communicate via Messenger in this way? Or I mean, I keep Messenger turned off. Like, I don't want to be bothered off of Facebook. I never use it. But is there enough of a customer base to justify making a piece of hardware?
I think there's a few people use Facebook. What is it, 1.5 billion?
But for this?
Well, look at this. Here's Grandma. She's reading me 3 Little Pigs. And with this fine Facebook portal, she can actually superimpose a pig face on herself while she's reading.
Thanks, Snapchat. What were you saying about Idiocracy earlier, Leo?
I wondered. Is this nobody's going to buy this, or?
Yeah, I think this is DOA. This is DOA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think this would likely be DOA even without the other issues for the reasons that Ron mentions. Like, I think that even though you potentially have a lot of people who use Facebook to communicate, they're not going to be aware or care about the Facebook, portal That's just
they're not going to spend $350.
No, and also just the way Facebook has branded themselves, you don't think about them for hardware the same way that Amazon's been able to do that and that Google's been able to do that. But I think when you have all the other things going with it, the creep factor is just too high. Like, I mean, this is the sort of thing where if you had this feature and it was another company who was well known for home products who released it under their name and their brand, and you could use, you could do Facebook chat with people, that's one thing. But I think it being under the Facebook branding and like, I feel like that's more, as much as anything else, the DOA part.
As far as I can tell, there's no way for me to cancel this.
You can always return it. Use your credit card.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. This
is expense. Tax write-off, Leo. This is
totally. I mean, it's for review purposes, and I felt like maybe I should review it, but now I'm wondering if
feel like a loss.
Does anybody care if I review it? It sounds like nobody does. Well, let's talk. I'm gonna take a break, and then when we get back, we'll talk about. It's interesting because Google's offering something similar without a camera. Google's no fool, right? They even made a point at the event, didn't they, Ron? There's no camera.
Yep.
This is the day after Facebook announced its portal. We'll talk about the Google event when we come back with Ron.
But they didn't mention the Google Plus thing at all.
No, of course not. I was wondering if they would. Yeah.
Nope.
They didn't bring it up. Why should they? It's old news.
They haven't even mentioned it on Google Plus. That's the part that kind of incenses me, is that for the people who still love it and are very upset. And we've all had social networks we love go away. I'm not going to make fun of anybody who uses that community and is part of that. Like I genuinely feel empathy.
I still post here. I love Google Plus.
What bothers me though is that there's been literally no response or outreach to that community from Google. Which, I mean, I feel like if you're going to do this, regardless of whether you're using it as an excuse or not, like you owe it to the people that actually do use it, however infinitesimal they might be, to
Google killed Google Plus
say something
a year ago when they I mean,
it was 3 years ago when they did the Pinterest design, when they made it Pinterest.
I like it, and photographers like Trey Ratcliffe made his name on Google Plus because it was such a good place for photographers. People like Mike Elgin really sang its praises. I loved it. But I'm looking at my Google Plus page. It's filled with spam of a sexual nature in many cases. And I'm a member of a lot of. Remember they pushed communities, so I joined a lot of geek communities, and now I'm getting porn spam. That's not a good look for Google Plus.
The one metric from the Project Strobe one was that I think that the average time spent on
Google
page.
Plus feed. Don't show it on TV.
Well,
but you see,
maybe
Mark,
you shouldn't have joined the geek porn community.
It's not a geek porn community. It's geeks. I guess I should unjoin it. That's part of the problem, right, Ron? If you don't moderate your community,
right,
the bad guys just totally
they get to it.
They get there. So I'm going to leave geeks. The Google Plus geek community apparently is not. Oh, man. What's this one? Photography. Oh, now I have to leave photography, too. They're all full of it.
The data point they said was the average time spent on page by Google Plus users was like 6 seconds.
They said, this was in the Project Strobe announcement. We found that 90% of Google Plus users left the page after 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Because they went, whoa, why my eyes?
Or they went to the page and posted that link and then went to the next one, right? Because they're just spamming it.
It's too bad because, honestly, it's a beautiful... Am I wrong? I think it's a beautiful social network. It has moderation tools better than Twitter, better than Facebook. I thought Google Plus should have won. Why did it not win?
Google fundamentally doesn't understand social. As a company, as a culture, they fundamentally don't understand social.
If you just give people a great tool, why don't they use it?
I don't think anybody building the products or steering it understands social. I just don't. And I think that you can have all the best things, but if you're not coming at it from that perspective, I mean, there was an interesting Medium post, or it wasn't a Medium, sorry, but somebody's blog someone who's on the design team for the first 8 months who kind of talked about his experiences, and they're obviously colored in some ways that maybe aren't fair to the final product, but it was always from the very beginning, it was a defensive move, always. And that comes through. And I think that the fact that it was designed because Google realized that they'd missed social, and then the fact that it was pushed down everyone's throats so much to the point where there wasn't even a reason for people to want to use it. You're almost turned off. I mean, there was a point where it was linked to all of your Google stuff. Like, I'm verified on YouTube because of it, so I'm thankful for that. I had a ridiculous number of Google Plus followers. It was I would joke about it because like it was hilarious. It still is. But I didn't really ever see that sort of engagement. It was just kind of this weird thing foisted upon people, and I don't think it ever had direction from people who saw it as anything other than we've got to try to beat Facebook because that's an important part of the future going forward. And it is what it is. It's a shame, but it is what it is.
It is a shame. By the way, if you want to learn Google Plus, the Brooklyn Public Library on Tuesday is having a class. It's never too late to learn Google Plus.
Oh God!
It will be in 10 months.
That's so good. Oh, that's my old library. I'm so, oh God. God bless
I want to
them.
go to, that's Tuesday.
Me too.
Wouldn't
Me
you want
too.
to go to
I mean,
that? Just see what,
I'll go. You guys want, I'm 5 minutes from Brooklyn.
check it
No,
out.
I mean, but that was literally like that was literally like a 5-minute walk from my apartment for many years. I'm very sad that I can't go to that. That's so good. Oh, that's so good.
Everybody in Brooklyn who loves Google Plus should go to this event.
It's a very Brooklyn thing too. It was like you go to this ironically.
What day and time is it?
It's a Tuesday at 11 a.m. at the Pacific Library.
I was gonna say Tuesdays is when we do All About Android. So maybe
but
I'll
you could
go
do it
at 11
before All About Android.
Yeah, there you go.
25 4th Street at Pacific Avenue, Brooklyn. Everybody show up just to show the flag. It's sad to me because it really has great tools. It could have been, I see Mike's still posting. That's where I got that link, by the way. It's from Mike Elgin. Trey Ratcliffe is actually putting together a documentary, kind of a online thing about saying goodbye, where people are going to. He wanted me to record something, and I'll do it. Record their thoughts and memories of Google Plus. It's sad. Although I noticed Karsten will not show my Google Plus. He's not going to show my Google. He saw what happened, right? Poor Mark Milian's going, why? I don't want to see that. The spammers just got a hold of it. How do you survive that, Ron? You have to go in every day, don't you?
His name is Jason Howell, and he's amazing.
Let Jason do it.
He's a blessing for all of us. We flag, but also the community does. But we flag and mark things as spam and stuff like that. But stuff gets through. But
if you flag it, you can. That's the thing. It has moderation tools. You can immediately get rid of it.
Yep.
But it's a testament to how few groups are being moderated that these spammers are flourishing, because it works. Yep. Our show today brought to you by FreshBooks. If you are a freelancer, I know a lot of you are, a small business, you know that I'm sure you love what you do, but there's a part of your business you may not love. That is doing those invoices at the end of the month, right? Sending out the invoices. It's like paying bills. You don't want to do it, but if you don't send out the invoices, the bills will not get paid. I learned that when I was a freelancer. This is back when I was going to Canada every month to do a call for help. Amber MacArthur, my co-host at the time, because I was moaning about it, said, got to try FreshBooks. They had just started up in Toronto. I'll tell you how long ago that was. It was a Web 2.0 startup, and it changed my life. I was able to do these invoices. It was in Canadian dollars. It did the currency automatically. It does every currency automatically. And the neat thing with FreshBooks is just merely in the process of sending invoices, you're actually doing your books, because you make the invoices. That's going to be your accounts receivable. You put expenses into the invoices. You can even use the FreshBooks app to take pictures of receipts. Gets right into the invoice. So there you go. There's your expenses. It'll even download your expenses automatically from your bank account. So and then when you get an invoice gets paid, you record it in there, and you'll have everything. You'll have sent, viewed. Yes, you know whether they've read your invoice or not. That's nice. People say, no, I didn't get your invoice. Yes, you did. Paid, you know what's overdue. That'll automatically send out reminders to pay. And actually, the truth is you get paid faster, on average about twice as fast, because every FreshBooks invoice also has a automatic pay me button. Your clients can pay online. Turns out clients are no more anxious to pay bills than you are to send bills. So if you make it easy for them, they go, oh yeah, let's just pay it, get it over with. You can create proposals now. Because it's a web app, they've constantly added features. Create proposals with rich text, content, and images. Request your client's e-signature. Yes, you can accept e-signatures. All of this is automatic. You accept credit cards. You don't have to set up a merchant account. They do it all for you. They have, let's see, the mobile app will let you keep track of your business no matter where you are. And you can also give employees, if you have them, access to that information. You can control what their access looks like. So you can have them put in invoices or check invoices. I can go on and on. They're always adding new features. That's why it's and boy, what a great support team. The best, because they're nice. They're Canadian. Nice support team. Check out their Learning Hub videos now, which make it easier. Although I don't think you're going to need them. You sit down, and it's just kind of automatic. You're doing bookkeeping without doing bookkeeping. It is the ridiculously easy to use cloud accounting software helping small business owners thrive. 24 million people have used FreshBooks, including me, to painlessly send invoices, track time, to capture. Yes, you could bill by time and hours. They have a little timer built into the website or the app, and to capture expenses. Try it free right now. That's the best advice. That way you'll know. If you don't like it, no harm. 30 days free at freshbooks.com/twit. Enter This Week in Tech in the How Did You Hear About section so we get credit. That's freshbooks.com/twit. It was really a great thing for me. So, Ron, you went to the Google event. That looked pretty cool, and I have to give myself credit because we streamed it. They streamed it, and we restreamed it, and Florence Ion and I commented. And I looked at those pedestals they had in the middle of the audience and said, I bet you products are going to emerge from there. I was being facetious, but they did. Uh-oh, Ron's muted. Did you
muted? I was muted during the ad. Sorry.
Okay.
I thought they were like big Google Home design props. I thought they're going to roll out like a new version of Google Home. That's what it looked like. But I was actually sitting right in front of one of those, and when the products came up out of it, I don't know if on the feed on the live stream you could hear me. I actually laughed out loud.
I love it
because it was just such a bananas decision. Because the whole story of this event was this is the most poorly kept secret in all of tech for the last month and a half, right? Like. We knew every product, we knew specs, we'd seen it, and they had, they kind of poked fun at it with that little video where they're showing clips of people talking about it and stuff like that.
They actually asked YouTubers to give them clips of them saying, we know everything Google's going to announce. And they did a montage. Ayaz Akhtar was in the opening place of the montage.
And all the montage did was just show an emoji, like a shrug, and then they just moved on.
I thought when they tweeted that the day before, they were saying something like, oh, you'll be surprised. You think you know, but you don't. No, we knew.
That's what we hoped for. But it turns out we knew. There was nothing. There was no surprise. But so they got up there, and Rick Osterloh, the head of hardware for Google, gets out there and basically just says, "This is what we're announcing: the phone, the Home Hub, and the Slate. And now you can see it, and it comes up out of these pedestals." And he's like, you only got 30 seconds. And then 30 seconds, they went back down to the pedestal, and they never came back out.
That's a lot of work for that.
Yeah.
Well, what are they going to do? I feel for them because this was the most leaked phone ever. Because, okay, first the renders come out. That's common. Then so many renders come out that it's left in a lift, and the Lyft driver recognizes it and sends it to one of the Android blogs.
Actually recognized it.
He actually recognized it. He returned it to the owner, but took a photo first. Then more stuff gets leaked. Then it's available for sale in Hong Kong before the event is out. So Richard Lai at Engadget buys it and reviews it. Then at the event, they literally make the event wrap-up video public on YouTube before the event starts.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. Like one of the guy from Android Police noted that literally the wrap-up video was live.
Well, they did that to capture the search traffic. They wanted to have the first wrap-up video out. That's why.
They're Google. What do they have to capture any?
You think that they could manipulate that? Maybe.
Yeah. No. I mean, literally, that's the. I mean, it's like I gave Apple, I think, deservedly a lot of made fun of them or not. Yeah. Did when the iPhone XS and the Watch leaked because they were available on their website weeks before the event, because that was just sloppiness. But this is just like, this is literally another level. I mean, and look, Microsoft, we've definitely had leaks too, and I feel for the teams that go through this. But I mean, what are you going to do? You still got to have the event. And in all honesty, there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people out there who didn't pay attention to any of that. The people who were in that room all know what they're getting. And if anything, I mean, Google, congratulations. You made it way easier for all the journalists in the room to already have their stories pre-written so they could just focus on other things.
But there's also another interesting narrative that I think that came out of it that not a lot of people are talking about, is that a lot of the opinions from the leaks were negative. Yes. And it was like the Pixel 3 is not going to be a good phone. It's not as good as the Pixel 2 and all this. What is this? What are these cameras?
I mean, very few people have seen the Pixel 3 because it's only coming out on Thursday, although I guess in some phone stores, people are still, based on pictures alone, saying that notch is hideous.
Yeah.
And now you saw it. Is the notch hideous?
No, it's not hideous. And they have a mode.
That's a joke, by the way. It's not that big.
I love the not pink. That's my favorite part. I love the name. I love the whole thing.
They've done a good job with their colors.
Somebody said that it isn't actually that pink. It's more opalescent. And now I'm regretting because I ordered black, but maybe I should have ordered not pink.
Yes, you always get the color, always get the variation.
I'm
That's
not secure enough in my masculinity.
But the pink phones are so good. Even it's so funny because I have the gold 10s Max, and it's so funny because Apple, they called their pink phone rose gold, and now they have like gold, and this is like actually, in my opinion, what rose gold actually looks like.
I actually do have the gold iPhone, but I feel like a pink phone might be.
Come on, you
could
pull it off.
Far.
No, you can pull it off.
I don't think so. Is this the pink? Is this the Ron? You were there. This is a picture of that pedestal. Is that the pink?
Yep.
That's pretty pink. That ain't no opalescent.
Well, that's got stage lighting on it too, so that might be altered. Because it wasn't a theater spot. So
you really didn't get much of a hands-on. Was this? 20?
I did. No, we did. So it was a great. I got to give Google credit. It was a great event. It was a very well orchestrated event.
It went very well. And by the way, I want to say it was great that Rick ran it, because he's their hardware guy, and everybody loves Rick Osterloh. He came to Google when they acquired Motorola, and he stayed, and he's great. Everybody loves him.
Yeah, he was a great keynote speaker. Just as a attendee of the event, they did it at Spring Studios down in downtown in Manhattan, which Microsoft has used a lot. Yep. Yeah, but they completely rebranded everything on the inside. From the moment you walked in, there was stuff on the wall. It looked as if Google had took over the building for the event. And the room the keynote was in was actually smaller than I thought it would be. It was a performance space with great windows and the skyline and everything. But
here's the opening of the event, where the screens kind of merge together to form a Pixel phone. I think that's pretty sweet. And I like all the light in there.
Yeah, it was a great event. And so the event itself was an hour, right? So like
I thought this is going to go on for hours and hours with all the stuff they were going to announce, but they really did only announce 3 things.
Well, and it was funny because when I checked in, when I got my badge and did everything, they said, so the event was at 11 a.m. New York time. And on check-in, they said, come back after 1 o'clock to receive your gift.
Oh, God.
And I was like, it's going to be a 2-hour. It's going to be a 2-hour event. I got a meeting. I can't do this whole thing. And we were done by noon, I'm pretty sure.
It was an hour and 15 minutes because we covered it. Yeah.
And then once the event finished, they ushered us all into this very well designed demo pit room that basically had design, and I took pictures of it. Carson, I say links of it. You can see all the pictures I got were from this demo pit. There was a section dedicated to the Pixel 3. There was a section dedicated to the Slate section. They had 3 or 4 mock-ups of the home where you could see the home hub working in a bedroom or in a living room or a kitchen, and they were running demos of those. And so it was just like this playground. I knew after seeing it, once I walked into the event space, I ran to that demo area because I knew that within 15 minutes it was going to be overrun by YouTubers and content creators, and sure enough it was like dodging cameras left and right because everyone was filming in front of stuff. But they had all the products there for us to play with and touch.
What was the gift?
So the gift, I'm like, ooh, a gift. I'm gonna get a phone. Nice. The gift was actually the latest Chromecast, which they didn't include in the keynote. That they didn't even talk about. And the Google Home Mini Mickey Mouse stand that Otter put out.
Well, I'm glad you have that.
Yeah, it was.
Is the new Chromecast in any way different except it's in white?
It's 1080p now.
And multi-room support.
It wasn't 1080p before?
Nope.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
The Chromecast Ultra was not. No.
Yes, that was 4K. But if you wanted to get the actual dongle, that has been 720p since I guess 2013 when it came out.
Okay.
So, which honestly, at this point, like, it was pretty pathetic.
Ron hasn't even taken the cellophane off the box. That's
because I have a TV with Chromecast in the
Right.
already in. Yeah,
I have Chromecasts in my drawer. I can't figure. I have so many. I bought so many Chromecasts.
You say that, but I got this Vizio TV because it had the casting technology in it.
Yeah.
Except that they haven't updated it for 2 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so now I'm actually thinking about using an HDMI port with this sucker just to get the latest version of Chromecast.
Yeah. I have every set-top box, dongle, whatever known to man. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get the newest Chromecast. I think I have an Ultra someplace, so that's fine.
Yeah, I use an Ultra on my 4K TV.
But I do like to travel with them, especially if I'm going to, if I can, whether the hotel allows me access or not. I usually find a way to do it because some of the hotels are getting better about letting you have Netflix. But
you can use a Chromecast in a hotel?
Oh yeah.
How do you do? You have to put it on. How do you do that?
Sometimes you have to play around a little bit to get it on the network, but it's almost always doable. And if I don't use a Chromecast, I use like a Fire TV stick. So
you have to put it on the hotel Wi-Fi to work, though.
Yeah. Or I mean, depending on your streaming plan. I mean, you could always just tether it to depending on your data plan.
Okay.
But a lot of times you can get there are ways that you can get it on those networks. So
it's really changed air travel that people have iPads. In fact, some airlines are actually taking the screens out of the seats now.
They sure are. Yeah.
Everybody's got an iPad. Nobody's watching the videos. I imagine the same thing will happen in hotels, right?
That or they'll start just putting those things there because that's what I've noticed is I've been traveling a lot this year and I've seen a huge uptick in the number of hotels that either are putting smart TVs in the rooms and actually enabling the smart TV features, or that are kind of encouraging the use of Netflix or other sorts of things because it's good for them insofar as like they can still obviously they want to upsell the in-room options, but a lot of times it means that they might not have to care as much about the full cable package if they know that people are just going to be watching Netflix or Hulu or whatever.
Right. So they announced a Pixel 3 and Pixel 3 XL. It looks a lot like the Pixel 2, but the camera is much improved. In fact, we had Rishi Sanyal on, the science editor for DP Review on yesterday on the new screensavers. He had DP Review had a great couple of interviews with the product lead and the imaging guys from Google that were really fascinating. It sounds like what they're doing with computational photography is really leading edge and ahead of Apple. We thought it would be because Apple's playing catch up with the iPhone XS Max and XS with Google's last year phone. Now they're doing 9 images in some cases. In some cases, as slow as a quarter second in low light. But because they're taking multiple images, they're able to eliminate handshake and motion blur. They're doing things like fill lighting computationally. It looks great.
Yeah, a lot of the gray area, or not the gray area, but the crossover between hardware and software really came out in this keynote. That yes, here's the phone, and it's got these it's got these sensors, it's got these lenses, but we took the computational power that we've learned from Google and put it on the chip in the phone to allow you to do these things, to apply computational approach to it. And like for me coming out of it, it was like, yeah, the phone's really cool, but wow, that mode that I forgot the name of the mode, but it takes a burst of pictures and recommends the best shot.
The top shot feature. Yeah,
top shot. That was like that actually I said I am prone to say holy cow, but I said wow out loud in the audience because it was just like seeing it in the demo and the funny video they had to go with it of all like the missed shots. But like that's something I would actually use. That's actually something that could improve my photo taking skills.
Another thing camera phones are terrible at is zoom because they usually are optical zoom. Apple solved that a little bit with dual lenses. A number of companies have done that. Google still only has one lens, but they're using this multiple image technology to do a zoom. Here's a unzoomed picture. CNET took these with the Pixel 3 in New York. And watch this building here because this is a significant amount of zoom on that building, and that's from the same. That's the same kind of image, but zoomed in. They're
just doing the cropping. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
No, it's really good. So I just got I this is the Sony Mark the RX100.
Yo, that's a
and
great
I had the Mark IV, and I left it during build, even though it was like literally down the street from where I live. I was staying in a hotel because I was doing so much stuff, and I left my camera in the hotel. And I wasn't able to get it back. And I was very mad at myself for leaving my expensive $900 camera. And so I was going to get the Mark VI, which has the giant zoom, but I actually wound up getting the 5A, which had the faster processor, but still has the lower, the better aperture and the better low light stuff. And this is, I spent all told, about $1,000 to get the camera and the kit. And it's a great camera, and it has, zoom, and it's pocketable. It's really good.
That's a 1-inch sensor, so it's a really big sensor.
So it's a really big sensor for a camera this small, and I love it. But I'm going to be honest, the way that sensor size notwithstanding, that Google and Apple and others, but especially Google, are changing their software to really get the most out of photos. I mean, even something like this, which is, granted, will do great 4K video and is a fantastic camera and is better in a lot of ways than what you would get with your phone. What we're seeing now with phones, I mean, I think unless you are an enthusiast or you're somebody like me who has to buy things, there's not so much reason already the pocket camera market or whatever, for people who we're not talking about the expensive ones, it's dead. Yeah. It was already dead. But now even the higher end, I mean, if I'm Sony and Sony does, I think, the best job with a lot of the stuff, I would be really worried, because you're starting to say, it's the AI tools and it's these auto croppings and it's making these decisions and it's doing all of the stuff on the software side that I think you can make the argument that a tech company can do better than a camera company, especially a company like Google, who has so much data and gets so much information and is so good at AI. It's really phenomenal. And so looking at I'm not an Android person, but looking at the camera on the Pixel XL 3 and also seeing what they're saying about bringing some of those features to other models because it is software, is so impressive.
Look at this night shot from Manhattan at night. I mean, very stunning. Low light. It's really remarkable. Now, it's not going to be perfect. If you pixel peep and really zoom in, you're going to see some, artifacts, some softness. So it's not going to replace high-end professional cameras. But for Instagram and Facebook, this is all you need. And I'm starting to think I might not have to bring a camera.
As they showed in the keynote, Condé Nast shot like 12 magazine covers with the phone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which then I said, oh great, so old media is officially dead.
That's not a great test, because magazine covers, let's be honest, are not high quality images. I mean, first of all, it's in a studio, so it's well lit. Second, they screen the hell out of those things, and so I don't know if that's really a good test.
Condé did that with the iPhone too. I remember getting a call for one of their food magazines that they shot the whole issue with an iPhone, and this was, I think, the 6S. So that's not even
Tell me this picture does not make you hungry.
Totally.
This picture makes.
So good.
I want this pizza.
I want it all.
That's clearly a New York pizza. Very small, but good. So I'm excited. I'm going to I get the phone on Thursday. I'm going to take it to Chinatown. I want some challenging environments, lighting and so forth. But I'm pretty impressed. The top shot, to me, the best part of the keynote was the top shot video.
That was great.
Wasn't that fun?
That was very good. It's a great feature. It's really, I was really impressed by a lot of the software stuff that they're doing. And I don't love the stuff that's only available on Pixel. Like, Smart Compose, which we've seen in Gmail on the web, is coming to the Gmail Mail app on the Pixel, which is like, I don't like when they do that, but I understand they need something to motivate people to go buy the phones. But all the application feature software stuff really impressed me this time
What's
around.
interesting, actually, though, is that Google's going to push a lot of this down to the other phones. Sure. That not all of it requires the Pixel 3 hardware.
Yeah.
Right.
That is unheard. Apple would never do that. That's unheard of.
No.
And I think here's the top shot video. So this is something we're all used to, which is you get everybody ready to take a picture, and then because of camera lag, you get people's eyes closed, their faces blurred, a scarf in the woman's face. We all get these pictures, a finger over the lens, guys jumping off the cliff, and you get the shot after they've already gone off the cliff. Who doesn't have these pictures all over the place in their camera? And so I really thought this was a very identifiable video. And what Top Shot does, of course, is it starts recording before you snap the shutter. So as a result, if you do get a shot and everybody's got a goofy look, you can actually scroll back, and I guess the AI will attempt to.
They'll recommend one.
They'll offer the best shot, which my experience is may not be the best, but the fact that you could still go back. Are these lower resolution though than the one you shot?
No, the ones in the carousel that you see there are lower resolution, but once you say I want to choose that one, it bumps the resolution up on it.
Interesting.
And I believe it's doing that computationally, not actually like it didn't capture every one.
Wow.
But it is bridging the gap.
Apple does this with live photos, I'm pretty sure. Although I had wondered the same thing about whether the resolution changes. Like, what Apple really taking
Apple
so many?
Does is they have one good quality still, and then it's actually a video. The rest of it, in effect,
but you can go
res.
in and edit and change.
Can you make it better?
Yeah, you can pick different stills.
They don't do it automatically, but you can.
They
go
don't
back
do it
on
automatically.
a live.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
The next step is going to be they will, and this is probably a couple of years down the line, but probably not that far, where they will stitch parts of the photo together. So you'll have like, okay.
Oh, they're already doing that.
Yeah. But they'll make it automatical so that if my eyes are closed but yours are open, then they'll create a composite of the two together.
Cool.
So what Rishi showed us is an image that Google had taken of a guy sitting in a basketball who tossing the basketball, and what the phone did was it got, for stuff that didn't move, it got very nice crisp stuff because it's taking 9 shots.
Right.
For the stuff that's moving, it picked one of the 9. So the basketball is, you can see it's a little lower res if you really look down at it. His hands are a little lower res. So the stuff that's static is perfect, and the stuff that's not, it's as good as it could get given it was taking 1 out of those 9 shots. So it's already doing that. It's really interesting. Google,
doesn't HDR mode do something like it's like a longer exposure so that you can.
Yes, precisely. There's basically stacking. So I think in some cases it stacks 5, in some cases it stacks 9. And basically, the other thing that Rishi talked about is, there's normally micro movements in the camera between the shots. They're very quick. They're 60 frames a second. But even so, your hand is moving in tiny little ways. And it's using that to get parallax and get different views of the same image from different locations, and then picking so you get, in effect, more pixel depth. It's pixel shifting, but because your hand's moving as opposed to having the actual pixel shifting on the hardware. It is mind-blowing. Now we'll have to all try it and see if it's going to be able to replace your RX 100.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I think that there are probably for people who actually go out and buy that camera, no, but I think that there are times where if you don't have it with you, I mean, so I originally bought my first RX 100 to see Beyonce in New York, and then I didn't get the second one in time to see her and Jay-Z in Seattle, and so I had to rely on my iPhone XS Max, and I still had really great photos, so it was kind of part of me was like, well, it's getting better, and the Google software, I mean, I think Apple's doing really good stuff, and I think that historically they've had the best camera stack in the phone industry. But at this point, I do feel like Google's software is better, which is something I didn't think I'd ever say. But it's really, really good.
I think you make the case it's been better for a couple of generations. That Apple's playing catch up. This is.
No, I mean, I wouldn't disagree, but I think now is where you really see the difference.
One thing Apple's getting some heat from is people is over sharpening, particularly in the selfie cam. There's a lot of beauty filtering going on, and you can't really turn it off. Marques Brownlee tweeted this picture with a Pixel 3. He says, there's for sure no beauty smoothing happening with this Pixel 3 camera. And I agree, the sharpness is pretty darn good in that selfie shot. All right, so here's the question. Is Google even close to competitive with Apple and Samsung in the smartphone market? I mean, they sold 10 million total last year.
Right. This is the problem, right? It's almost like you wonder, okay, would they not be better off trying to charge and license this to people who are actually selling phones or cameras?
It's a shame. I mean,
it really is.
I also feel like I'm safer using a Google Android device than other Android devices. Is that crazy talk, Ron?
No, it's not crazy, but I do think slightly tied to this, they didn't say the word Android in the keynote
That was
once.
wild. They did not say it once.
At all.
In an hour and 7 minutes, they did not say it once. Why?
So I wonder if they're trying to combat whatever kind of in the ether negative opinion about Android that's out there to bridge the gap to compete with Apple and Samsung. Because Samsung users, the millions and millions of Samsung users do not say I have an Android phone. They say I have a Galaxy.
No, they have a Samsung. They have a Galaxy. Well, and in fact, it's the point where people, I mean, look, granted, as the diehards get upset that the updates are delayed, and people like us, Ron, probably prefer the stock Android experience.
Yep.
But most people who are buying Samsung devices, no matter what your opinion of TouchWiz is, they're buying it because that's how they use their phone. So if they were to go to the stock experience, they'd be like, "What is this?"
Right.
Yeah, because they're 9 generations in now. They bought a Samsung
Exactly.
10 years, 6 years ago, and they've just gotten every phone every time they upgrade. So it makes sense.
Exactly.
But I thought it was really enlightening that Google didn't acknowledge Android in the entire presentation.
Chat room's corrected me. Google shipped 3.9 million Pixel devices in 2017.
Oh, that's
Compare
terrible.
that to 1.5 billion units sold worldwide of all other phones. It's less than
those are
week's worth.
BlackBerry numbers.
It's less than 1 week's worth of iPhone sales. 3.9.
No, like genuinely, you guys, those are like BlackBerry numbers. Those are like Palm numbers back when like Palm was selling the Centro and stuff like that. I'm not even joking.
So
like,
why is Google in this business? Is it
because they can't not be.
They have to be.
Yeah, I mean, and at this point, they get to show off some of their top tier things. I mean, I think it's the same way. I think the Surface is now selling really well, but it's the same way why it makes sense for Microsoft to be in the Surface business. It's a good way when so many people use your operating system, and that's both the plus and the minus of Android is that anybody can use it. As we just said, Samsung makes it their own. Other companies do their own things with it. Google has this opportunity, regardless of how many units they sell, to show off the best aspects of Android, and they're the ones who can control the entire end-to-end experience, and they make enough money that it's worth it. I have to assume.
And as you point out, Microsoft did the same thing with Surface, and it has turned the corner. It's now the top number 5 PC maker in the U.S., which Microsoft has had really just started making PC hardware in the last few years. So that's
so I mean, it could catch up, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Christina, I agree with you there, but I also think that the story about Android and hardware, and specifically with phones, is all about accessibility. And the fact that these are $799 and up phones, $799 and higher phones, so they're expensive price point. They're available on the Google Store, which nobody knows exists unless you're a fan, and Verizon. So then it becomes an accessibility issue. I'm on T-Mobile. I got to wait till T-Mobile gets it and all that sort of stuff. They do these exclusivities. I mean, this is why OnePlus isn't known. I mean, by and large, I'm using the OnePlus 6 now as my daily driver, and people at work is like, what is that? Because they've never heard of the company.
They've never heard of it because you have to be a certain type. No, I agree with you. I was actually going to say that I think that, if they were really serious about taking this on, they would have to be serious about getting agreements with the other carriers. But the problem with that, right, is that then the carriers want to make concessions and want to make changes and want to do things, and that goes against kind of the core model.
I think a lot of what Google.
Go ahead, Mark.
After you.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of what Google does is like the illusion of competition. Like, we're going to make a phone. We know it's never going to be the best-selling phone, but we also don't want to be overly reliant on Samsung or overly. It's the same reason they do Project Fi. They're never going to be the biggest cell carrier in the U.S. That's why they do fiber. They're never going to be Comcast, but they're showing Comcast we can do really fast internet at low prices. So why can't you?
That sounds like they're being altruistic. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think I think it's for competitive business reasons. They know their main business is not going to be cell phones or cell carriers, but they want to show we're not going to be overly reliant on any one company.
And of course, we've always said that Google makes money when you use the internet, just in general. So,
but it's also the implication of a suggestion of competing. You got to know that once they open fiber, Comcast was like, oh crap, Google's getting into this. We got, so it's the suggestion of, hey, at any moment we can shift this large cruise ship that we're steering in your direction and wipe you out.
Odd though, is it a marketing failure? I mean, if the Pixel 3 XL is a great phone, it sounds like it is. Why isn't it selling better?
Well,
because it's only available on Verizon, and if you get it,
I can get a Pixel 3 on every. Oh, you mean it's only in the Verizon stores?
Yeah.
So getting in every. But remember, the iPhone was only in AT&T for years.
And it limited its release.
And it did. And I remember I was at CES the year that they announced that it was going to be on Verizon, and I was actually in a Motorola briefing, and we got the invite for a meeting with Verizon, and it was clear that it was going to be the iPhone launch event. They were going to do something in New York, and I remember because it was Campfire at the time, kind of getting with my editor and being like, do I need to leave the CES Motorola keynote to write the iPhone news? And they're like, yeah, because that was such a big deal. I mean, that held the iPhone back, but that was also the very beginning of all of this. And the iPhone was enough of a halo product that many people did switch. But as soon as they came to Verizon, I mean, that was massive. The number of people who became iPhone users was
it jumped. Yeah. Is Google charging too much? That's what the chat room said.
Yes, that's my other point, is that going back to the price point, I've been saying since they came out with the Pixel, I've been saying it since the Nexus. Give me a mid-range to low-end phone from Google. Because the thing is that not everyone can afford an iPhone, not everyone can afford a Pixel, and you know what they're getting? They're getting those mid-range phones by ZTE and by other companies,
which is actually dangerous.
Yep. Right. They're getting the cheapo phone from their carrier, basically. Yeah. That runs Android.
And what's interesting is that Google really could have an opportunity to really outsell those if they used older SoCs, if they used, maybe less memory, but they could still bring some of those. Maybe, you don't have the 12 megapixel camera, maybe not as good of a sensor, but you still bring some of those AI features. You could still get a really tremendous experience.
Isn't that the point of
Android? You could get lock-in.
Android One, though, is to make a secure Google experience on other people's hardwares at a low cost. That's kind of what.
Yeah, that hasn't worked though.
Oh.
Well, we'll see if the latest flavor of Android One works. But
fourth attempt, I don't think it's going to.
Yeah.
Right. But Christina, to your point, why not make an affordable phone that college kids can buy? That's right. That's the Pixel. I don't say Pixel Lite. I'm not a marketing guy, but to make it a flagship, to make it so expensive, immediately limits your audience. You make it accessible, you lock them into the brand, and then you get a generation like Samsung has done that only think that's my phone. So.
It's not a particularly good business, which is probably a big reason that they don't go to the low end, is because Google can't do it cheaply in the way that a lot of the Chinese and South Korean.
Right.
Samsung owns a lot of the manufacturing, or has adjacent companies that do the manufacturing where they can.
That's true, and they own their chips. I mean, that's a good point. You could almost make the argument though, because since really they want the data and that's where they're making their money, and they get more of the information that they could.
They get that anyway because everyone uses Android.
But that's a great question though. That's a great question though. Is Google after this event with three? They've got phones, they've got tablets and laptops, and they've got now home devices. Is Google now a software and a hardware company like Apple, or are they still just a software company that has some hardware? Because that's a huge distinction.
Yeah.
Let's take a little break. There's still more to talk about. There's a new Chromebook from Google. It's the Pixel Slate, and the new Google Home Hub. We had a great week this week. A lot of fun. In fact, some of the stories we're talking about here, we talked about earlier. Watch this little video we've made, and I think
previously on Twit.
Is there something inside here we should?
I don't know. Do I look?
Is there a rabbit in this hat?
The new screensavers.
Nicole Lazaro is the founder of Zeo Design.
Well, this is the Magic Leap 1.
So this is augmented reality in the sense that I'm like wearing sunglasses with some stuff superimposed on top of it.
Really, the value of AR is going to be when I drop the walls out and then dynamically place the furniture and the puzzles and all that in the room that you're actually in.
All about Android.
Is it a tablet? Is it a computer? What is it?
Yes, what is it? I'll tell you what it is. It is the Pixel Slate. They kept on saying it's a portable device with a desktop experience. So this is a desktop computer with a huge 4K Acer monitor plugged into the Pixel Slate.
So at the low end level, it's a iPad Pro competitor, and at the high end level, it's a Surface competitor. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Mac Break Weekly.
Apparently there's a daylight savings bug. Latest watch is crashing and rebooting. Yeah, time is tough.
What if they pull the same sort of strategy that they use for the headphone jack? If they just simply say, we're Apple, we're just going to drop support for this, and everybody else is just going to have to deal with it. And then, so if they said none of our devices can handle daylight savings time, if you don't like it, call your congressperson.
Oh my gosh, that would be great.
Twit. We read the tech news. so you don't have to.
What about the people who have to wind my clocks every twice a year? What about their jobs?
How will we know when to change the batteries in our smoke detectors?
Lovey.
I think we were talking about something that's on the ballot in California that would keep California on daylight saving time all year round.
You can put anything on the ballot in California.
You can, because as the ballot measure points out, it will take 2/3 of the state legislature to approve it and federal government approval. And we know the federal government's not going to say California can change its time zone. So it's like a non-starter, but I'm still voting yes. We got to stop this insanity, the clock changing insanity. What if we just stayed stayed standard time? You could do that without federal approval. What's wrong with that, John? He doesn't like it.
And it's dark all the time. It gets dark too early.
It's not dark all the time. Here's a little tip. It actually doesn't change the amount of sunlight hours in any way that we change our clocks. It's the same, right?
When are we going to harvest our farms?
Seriously.
This is an important question.
Farmers can work in the dark. They are used to it.
Also,
Can we get rid of time
it's all
zones
automated
already?
now anyway. Like they all have machines to do all the
Except when they
picking and
crash
whatnot.
one.
Farmers
except when
don't
they crash
care.
once a year.
No, farmers even say, we don't like it either.
I know, but it's
solar panels won't
always
work
fun to
anymore.
blame the farmers.
Trust No One in our chat room says the kids need the extra daylight to work in the fields. It's for the children. It's for the children.
Hate it so much.
I do too. And we're about to do it again. And then I have
I
to
know.
do, we have to everything.
You just set all your clocks and everything. I'm just gonna be happy when. That's the only reason that I would want one of those Alexa microwaves would be that it could like auto set itself.
Yeah. It's sad because in my house, half the stuff does and half the stuff doesn't.
Same.
And I'm not sure which is right.
I'm both dreading and can't wait for this year's fallback, because fallback is my favorite one because you get another hour of sleep. Right? Mm-hmm. Except that I'm going to be at Disney World running a half marathon that starts at 5:30 in the morning, and I miss out on sleeping in, and B, really wonder how many people are going to miss the start of the race because they didn't fall back or didn't know about
That's
it.
an advantage for you.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, because you're on. Is it in Disney World or Disneyland?
Disney World.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
right. So
it's the food and wine one. Yeah,
sounds like fun. You run through Epcot and stop at each country and have some food and wine. Wow.
And then by the end of it, you're drunk and your stomach is like, why did I run so much?
Well, that's the thing for the food and wine. Like they used to do it after the park closed, and then at the finish line they had glasses of wine waiting for you. But now they've moved it to before the park opens, and that's not appropriate.
No.
So, yeah.
Who wants a glass of wine at 8 a.m?
Who doesn't, Leo?
Oh, I'm sorry.
My mother would probably disagree with that.
Oh, Lord. Our show is brought to you, and I mean literally, by CashFly. If you ever download any of our Twitch shows for the last 10 years, you're downloading it from the CashFly network. I think you know that. CashFly is a content distribution network, or CDN, and that's the reason you're getting our shows fast, because you're getting it from a server that's near you. CashFly has servers all over the world, and by the way, they have guarantee 100% availability because of this, with a bulletproof 100% service level agreement, SLA. I don't know about you. I don't want to get a call at 3 a.m. saying Twit is down. You can't download any of the shows. What are we going to do? I have never received that call because we've always been on CashFly. The other thing I love about CashFly, it saves me a lot of money, more than 20% on average than other CDNs. CashFly is awesome. And if there ever is an issue, they've got an expert team of smart, easy to talk to, agile techs that can answer all your questions the first time without having to pass you around to 5 different departments. If you deliver content to people, software, or if you're a podcast or any other business that has to have content readily available to your customers, you need CashFly. No need to predict bandwidth consumption for the month. No contracts you're locked into inflexibly. CashFly builds its service around your unique demand and traffic patterns. Join the thousands of others like Twit that trust CashFly's reliable network. Let CashFly give you some sanity back. We love, and I mean this wholeheartedly, we love CashFly. Twit literally would not exist without CashFly. Petabytes of data every month from the CashFly servers. I have an exclusive offer just for you if you're interested and you want to move to CashFly, or if you've not used a CDN, believe me, trust me, it's the only way to travel. CashFly is giving away a free, detailed analysis of your current CDN bill and usage trends, you may be leaving 20% or more on the table. I bet you are. And CashFly is just better. Go to twit.cashfly.com to find out more. Twit.cashfly.com. I have to hide behind my Surface because I have to do Windows Hello. I don't know. It logged me out. Oh, it says it's looking for me. Do you ever have to do that?
Yes.
It's looking for me.
Yes, but I love it. It's so good. It's one of those things. I have it on my Surface Book, and I just got a MateBook X Pro. I know I couldn't believe I bought a Windows laptop either, but it has the fingerprint sensor for Windows Hello, which is a little bit easier. But I do like.
I love it.
Looking for
I have
me.
a
It's
Surface
so good.
Go, and it's like it says,
Yes.
Hi, Leo. I love it. And this studio is great. Now, Surface, of course, got updated a couple of weeks ago, and they did update. I was crossing my fingers they wouldn't put out a new Surface Studio, but they did. And
they did.
Now I gotta buy
they
it.
Did.
$3,500, but it is
but it's beautiful.
Isn't it nice?
And
Mark's sitting next to me.
It's nice.
And the things that like I can annotate. I got a telestrope. It's set to be white right now, so let me set it to be a better color. I could telestrate. I just love it. I just think it's so great.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, my office mate has one, and I'm always jealous. And then I realized that I would never use it. I have no reason to have it.
No, it's really for illustration.
Beautiful machine.
It's perfect for podcast hosts. Just perfect. All right, quickly, because we've spent enough time on Google today, but just quickly, let's talk about the Slate, which is and again, none of this was a surprise. Although there were rumors, there were two rumors that didn't come true. One, that there might be a Pixelbook 2, an update of last year's Chrome OS device. No. And nor was this a dual boot device that could run Windows. That was another rumor. Didn't come true. But the Slate does look exactly like people like Kevin Toffel at allaboutchromebooks.com predicted because of leaks from Bridge and others. It is a tablet, 3,000 by 2,000, very nice, high-res, almost 300 DPI tablet to which you can add a keyboard and a pencil. Very much like a Surface Book, very much like an iPad. It could go either way. It's priced like kind of a low end. Well,
no, it gets super expensive.
It adds
up.
Yeah, if you get the high end one and all the accessories and stuff like that, it becomes a $1,500 purchase. Like a laptop.
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
Wow.
No, that's my one real critique on it is that if I were going to be spending that much money, I think I would just get a Surface Pro. To be honest with you, because.
Well,
I mean,
you're a little biased.
Okay, granted, I do, but even if it were like, okay, let's say that this was 14 months ago, I think I would probably still say the same thing, just because put Crouton on it, but you can put other kind of you can dual boot and get kind of the Chrome OS experience, just because I think it's really expensive. Whereas at least the Pixelbook was expensive but had the really good hardware. I don't know, it's like I feel like you have to have that $200 keyboard. It's kind of like the Surface Go. It's silly to entertain buying one without it.
Right.
But the keyboard is expensive.
Keyboard's nice though.
I mean that's good, but it's still expensive.
Yeah, they talked about how they brought in stuff from the Pixelbook and the technology they've learned, and applied it to the mobile keyboard. And I did a little typing with it. It definitely felt good. Given that I'm not a big fan of the foldable laptop and the portable keyboard aspect of it, just in general, but they did do a good job. And what blew my mind and what we saw in that clip earlier from All About Android, what Flo and I were talking about on the show, was that the fact that it can plug into a monitor and it could potentially be, if you do buy the high end version with all the memory and all the RAM and all the hard drive storage space, it could replace your desktop computer and your tablet, which is really kind of amazing. If I could carry my Mac Mini around with me, I'd have all my files on it. You could do that with this device. It was really impressive because it's both an iPad Pro competitor and a Surface Book competitor. Like they're
I gotta say though, the same question I asked about the Pixel phone. What is Google's plan here? I doubt they sell very many of these. People who buy Chromebooks typically want to spend $200, not $1,500.
I don't know, but that's the question we ask every time. And sometimes you go education.
But no, it's way too much for education.
No, but they've got all those deals. They've got all those development programs and stuff like that. Yeah, you're right. It's expensive, but I share your point. I don't know who's getting this. They had a rig set up in the demo pit area of one of these hooked up to a USB turntable with the DJ software up on there. And I would never even thought of that. Like I don't know who they're targeting for this stuff, but it seems pretty flexible. It seems like it could hit a bunch of markets. Now, how does Google market it? That's the question.
Yeah.
I think it would be, for a lot of people, it would be a lot more attractive if the Linux app support was already there. If you could run like Electron apps.
They said it does. It runs. It runs not Crouton, Crostini.
Crostini. Okay.
Yeah.
Because this tablet is. It's important to note this is not running Android because they never said the word Android. It's running Chrome OS.
But they did say the Google Play Store is available on it.
Yeah. which is still a terrible experience. Every time I mean, I know it's getting better, but it's still. There some apps work better than others, but
they flopped last couple of years ago with the Pixel C tablet, which was an Android tablet, which I thought hardware-wise looked great. I bought one.
The price point was awful.
Yeah,
the price point was awful, and because
Android was not ready for tablets.
Yeah. Well, what happened is that the one really well-selling Android tablet is from Amazon, and that is largely consumption. And so, most of your Android apps are designed for phones and haven't really been optimized.
Do the Samsung
for the tablet experience.
Android tablets not sell well? Are they not?
I don't think so.
They all don't. And everybody, this is the question I get asked the most because when my what was the Nexus 9 that tablet.
The 10, the Nexus 10. That was
So when my tablet when it bricked and I had to get a new tablet and the Pixel C was too much, I settled on the Asus ZenPad 3S10, which has been phenomenal. It's just been it was a good price point. It was running Asus's flavor of Android, which is fine because they don't really get in the way too much of it. But for $299 at Best Buy, you can't beat that. It solves what you need for a tablet at a good price point.
I'm a fan of Chrome OS. I kind of drank the Kool-Aid. At first, I was very skeptical, but I see its value both in education and business where people want a secure platform that isn't as complicated to use as Windows or Macintosh. But it also needs to be affordable. And it's a little pricey when you add it all up. Let's talk about the Home Hub. This is an interesting product because there are already a couple of Google Assistant-based devices with screens from Lenovo, from JBL. I think somebody else is coming out with one at some point, LG maybe. But this one isn't like those. This one is running Chrome. It's more like a Chromecast. Yep. It's not running that specialized version of Android that Google put out for these other companies. Why is that?
To make it better?
But that's mean.
No, but to give it an edge against those other folks, like when Lenovo and those other folks started putting out, I think it was at CES, we started seeing these smart displays, Google Home with a display running Android, and we're like, why isn't Google doing this? Like, are they just letting the OEMs figure it out and then they're going to come do it better? And it looks like that's what happened. And again, this is the intersection of hardware and software, because to me, the Google Home Hub was the star of the show.
I agree. That was what excited me. That's like the one I might actually buy, and I'm not even a Google
one thing
person.
is Google kept the price way down. They didn't put a camera on it, and it's tiny. Look at this image from Ars Technica of a Pixel 2 XL next to it. It's basically not much bigger than a 6-inch screen, even though it's in a 7-inch.
How much is this digital picture frame?
$149. That's a good price, right?
Nice.
Honestly, it is.
I think I got one for my parents for Christmas. The digital, plastic ones.
They even said in the keynote, we made the best digital picture frame capability because they knew that's what it would be used most of the time. But that said, it plugs into Google Photos, it curates your photos, it gives you a great experience for that.
If you have Nest cameras, doesn't it automatically display or a Nest thermostat? So if you're in the Google ecosystem, it's kind of like a desk clock or a bedside clock sort of thing, and you can talk to it. It's got assistant.
Yep. And the overhaul of the Home app and the dashboard for all your devices, and the fact that this works with pretty much every IoT device in market, because right now IoT is a nightmare. Like I've got 2 lights in my house, and I've got Samsung Smart Things and Google Home, and sometimes one light decides to turn on or off, and I have no control over whether it wants to turn on or off. And if they're making steps to make IoT more easy to set up, easy to maintain, then that will help IoT as an industry. And I think this could be a game changer, especially at that price point.
Admittedly, it's an IoT device. It works with everything, but it works best if everything comes from Google. Like, for instance, if you have the Nest doorbell, when the doorbell rings, the the screen pops up the picture, which is awesome. But I don't want to replace my Ring doorbell with a Nest doorbell. I ordered one. We'll see. I think the price is smart. At least Google there. We were just talking about how the Pixel 3 is too expensive, how the Slate is.
The price is smart. Well, there's a couple differences. One, the smartphone market is totally saturated, so they don't need to be as. It doesn't behoove them, I guess, to be as competitive price-wise. Whereas here, there's a ton of competition and a ton of open opportunity. And Amazon is really, really aggressive. But so I think that's part of it. I'd say my favorite thing. I mean, in addition to keeping the price down, they don't have the camera, which to me
that was really
I think it's really smart when you juxtapose this product with the Facebook portal, right? Because
the Echo. Or the Echo Show or the Echo Spot, Amazon devices, which do have a camera on them.
Exactly, which I think a lot of people are comfortable having these assistants in their homes. My mom loves her Echo so much. I got it for her a couple years ago, and she loves it. I don't think people are okay with having the recording for the audio. They're not as comfortable with having the cameras necessarily.
Lisa won't let me put the Spot in the bedroom because it's got a camera on it.
Absolutely, and so I think this. Eventually, people will be more comfortable, but this gets you over that hump, and I think it cuts down the price. Google has to deal with, in my opinion, very valid reasons. Kind of people feeling creeped out by them knowing too much, and by making that decisions to not have the camera there, I think makes it a better product, and it gets them in front of that critique, especially when they happen to launch the same week as the creepy Facebook assistant.
The day after.
Yeah, exactly.
But that, I mean, this product, I mean, people were saying that, like, it was genius that they didn't have a camera in it. They couldn't, that was already.
No. It was complete. It was complete luck. Make no mistake. I'm just saying that this is one of those instances where you can say, okay, they were really unlucky that all the leaks happened with the Pixel, right? But they were really lucky insofar as the timing on this, even though they didn't plan for it, it worked really well in their favor.
So it's hard to tell during the stream how big this device is.
Yeah.
It's pretty tiny, right, Ron?
It's small, yeah. In the pictures I took it next to there's a Nest thermostat, and so you can get a sense of it, and it's basically the size of 2 Nest thermostats. It's a small device. I mean, it's like smaller than a 7-inch tablet. Like it says, a 6-inch screen. It doesn't, and I think that's smart because you don't, because my whole thing is I was talking to my wife about it, who is not one of us. She's technically capable, but she's not a tech person. And she's like, well, I don't want a TV in the kitchen. I'm like, right, no, it's not a TV. It's a little screen that can help you do recipes and stuff like that. And I think making it less cumbersome and less noticeable plays to its advantage, because then it becomes a thing that it's not going to steal attention from the rest of the house, but rather fit into the house seamlessly, so you help you better control things.
And because it's so inexpensive, a lot of people are like, well, why not just have an iPad? Well, iPads cost a lot of money, and you might not want to have one in your kitchen at all times. Whereas now you kind of get the best of both worlds. You can ask it things and show things, but still play YouTube videos if you want to see how something works, and you can still kind of have a visualization.
And have parental restrictions on the YouTube, which is something that the other displays don't have, much to Jason Howell's chagrin, because his kids can pull up anything on YouTube and it's not filtering out the stuff they shouldn't be seeing. And Google smartly pointed that out in the presentation, which was nice to see.
They say this will be the best YouTube device.
Well, and they also in the announcement of the device say it has a downtime mode where, like, from 6 to 7 it can't be used. It's only a clock or whatever it is. And again, going bach to these, which I just find baffling and so funny, but this idea of wellness in technology and everyone's putting in functionality to make you not use their products, which I think is amazing.
All right. Well, I should have bought 2. Apparently, for a brief period of time, it was available for $100 on Home Depot. I think they did an 8-hour sale, which I thought was very interesting. I bet they sold quite a few. I saw that link spread virally very quickly.
That would have. I wish I had seen that, because that would have been an absolute no-brainer. And I don't love Google Assistant, but for $100, I would have been like, fine.
Well, I wonder. I mean, I bet there'll be more sales.
Home Depot sells way more IoT stuff than I would have thought.
Yes, they have become. From the beginning, they've been really smart, and that they targeted that area. I remember speaking with people at Home Depot a number of years ago when they started to kind of get into that space. I think they saw that they were, it was an opportunity for them, and the companies that are smart enough to kind of get the shelf space there are good, because you have to think that people who go to Home Depot and spend a lot of time there aren't just individuals, but people who do contract work and who people hire to come do things for their homes. And if they can just do it, go to Home Depot and get everything there, that's an awesome place for all those contractors.
Another thing Google did not announce is an update to the Pixel Buds. I guess those are DOA now, right? Although one of the things they did just today, they put Pixel Buds real-time translation on all Google Assistant headphones. So
I love my Pixel Buds.
Do you?
I use them every day. Yeah, This is
You're the one. Yeah,
they're the one. I'm not.
There's always somebody.
I'm seeing more and more people on the subway in New York wearing them. I think it's an emerging trend. I don't know. They're good. They work.
No, come on. Everybody on the subway has AirPods. Like that's been the thing since like May of 2017. Like AirPods are everywhere.
Well, as of like last
that.
week, I'm seeing more Pixel Buds.
What? No, come on.
I see it because we look at what's out in the wild, and of course there's an enormous amount of AirBuds. Agreed.
No, I'm not saying you don't see them. I'm just saying, like I and granted, I live in a place where it's not as
Who knew that Seattle even had a subway?
It doesn't, but when I'm like on campus, but
they have a monorail that goes to 2 stops. It's going back and forth.
I've been on the monorail.
They are actually working on a subway system, but it won't be up for a couple of more years to connect the east and west sides. But I always joke like Seattle's like 6 months behind New York, and it's true. But you see AirPods everywhere. But I'm like you, like Ron, like I just noticed like what every device everybody is using. Yep. I haven't seen any Pixel Buds. I don't doubt that you see them in the wild. I'm just saying, like, AirPods are the ones that have like completely taken over.
And yet somehow Pixel Buds don't look as douchey.
That's the douchiness may be part of the appeal. I don't know.
Isn't it funny how quickly we got used to those AirPods?
I mean, I knew the second I got my first pre-production model from Apple in like September of 2016. I was like, yeah, I don't care how dumb these look. This is the best.
Yeah. I'm on my 3rd set. I keep losing them. But I keep buying the ones to replace the ones I lost. I was going to wait until Apple announced the new ones, but I don't know who knows.
Yeah, we don't know if they're going to or what the changes will be. Yeah.
We do. I'm sure we will get in the next 2 weeks an iPad announcement. There's almost no doubt there'll be new iPad Pros this year. The question is whether we'll see new MacBooks or even a MacBook Air refresh or a MacBook Mini or Mac Mini refresh or an AirPod refresh. I doubt we're going to see the wireless charger.
I think that thing's gone.
That is DOA. Let's take a break and some final thoughts. A great panel. Mark Milian from Bloomberg Business Week. He's here. He's in the studio. It's really great to see you again, Mark. He's apparently gotten over me doing the droopy dog, so thank you.
Yes, thank you for not.
Yes, no, I didn't do it. I've gotten over it too.
Good.
I received it. I received the cease and desist. Ron Richards here from All About Android, and Ron XO on the Twitter.
Hence all the Google passion. Sorry.
And hence all the Google passion. And for just passion in general, there's nobody better than Christina Warren from Microsoft. Great to have all three of you. Our show today brought to you, interestingly enough, by Ring. We all love the Ring video doorbell. Everybody in my neighborhood has it now, which is nice because of the neighborhood system on the Ring. I can actually see what's going on in my neighborhood. And neighbors will say, watch out for this guy, or there's somebody stealing packages. It's really pretty amazing. Ring has expanded. Of course, we've talked before about the doorbell, the spotlight cam, and all of that. Now Ring has the amazing Ring alarm system, a wireless home security system that completely reinvents the home alarm system. You can do it yourself. You can do it for less. We all know that those alarm companies make their money on the monthly, high monthly fees for monitoring, and of course tie you into contracts of. I saw one that required 2 years and charged more than 3 times what Ring charges. So Ring has created an easy-to-install, affordable home security system, exactly what you'd expect from the Ring folks. And there are no long-term contracts. You put the pieces together that are right for you. This is the kit, which comes with the basic set of sensors. It's got a motion sensor. It's got the keypad. Of course, there's an app that you can use, a big, loud alarm system. and the sensors for door or window opening. A range extender that'll extend the system, the signal from your base station. So if you've got outbuildings or a big house, it'll work there. The keypad's great. It's fantastic. Everything you need to protect your home, and includes 24/7 professional monitoring for just $10 a month. This is such a great idea, and I'm so glad Ring did it. The Ring Alarm Security Kit, everything you need to protect your home, 24/7 professional monitoring, $10 a month. It's available at ring.com and retail stores across the United States. Go to ring.com/twit to learn about how you can get a whole home security system for only $10 a month. Ring, R-I-N-G, ring.com/twit. And if you don't have the Ring doorbell or the Ring floodlight cam, get it, because we're surrounded. We have it everywhere, and I just love it. I've had Ring now for a couple of years. Ring.com/twit. Apple has sent a letter. As you know, the Australian government wants Apple to put a backdoor in its encryption. Apple has sent a strongly worded letter responding to the Australian Parliament's Assistant and Access Bill, which was introduced late last month, designed to help the government more easily access devices. Of course, this is going to happen in the United States, too. Apple writes, and the letter is, by the way, available online on a website hosted by the Australian Parliament. The devices you carry not only contain personal emails, health information, and photos, but are also conduits to corporations, infrastructure, and other critical services. Vital infrastructure like power grids and transportation hubs will become more vulnerable when individual devices get hacked. Criminals and terrorists who want to infiltrate systems and disrupt sensitive networks may start their attacks by accessing just one person's smartphone. In the face of these threats, this is no time to weaken encryption. There is profound risk of making criminals' jobs easier, not harder. Increasingly stronger, not weaker, encryption is the best way to protect against those threats. Agreed?
Definitely.
Who wouldn't?
Sure. Yeah,
but you can see law enforcement here in the States pushing for the same thing. They want.
Absolutely.
I mean, good luck, Australia. If the U.S. or China couldn't get Apple to give up encryption keys or put in backdoors, what hope does Australia have?
Yeah.
You got to respect the bravado of asking.
Well, that's Australia for you right there in a nutshell. Oh, we're going to get it, mate.
It's like, no, we won't be doing that. Thank you for your interest.
Scary story in Wired this week. It starts in 2013. A young computational biologist named Yaniv Erlich shocked the research world by showing it was possible to unmask the identities of people listed in anonymous genetic databases using only an internet connection. Fast forward 5 years, the amount of DNA information housed in digital data stores has exploded, thanks to consumer companies like our former sponsor 23andMe and Ancestry.com. We actually have a new genetic analysis sponsor, Helix. Genetic profiles of 12 million people, according to recent industry estimates, have been created by these companies. And now there is some significant issue that no one's DNA is anonymous anymore, even though these databases are anonymous. Something to seriously worry about here. Researchers chose an anonymous female subject from the 1000 Genomes Project, which is an open access sequencing project. They reformatted her DNA to resemble a typical consumer genetic profile, uploaded it to GED Match. You may remember the name GED Match. That was used to arrest a guy on a cold rape case and prosecute him, and I think put him in jail because of a DNA match. 2 relatives popped up, one in North Dakota, one in Wyoming. The match suggested they were distantly related 4 to 6 generations back. An hour of public record combing later, the team had found the husband and wife. So, yikes. I don't know what to say. I remember when Esther Dyson put her genome. There's something called the Personal Genome Project. I tried to get into it. And one of the things the Personal Genome Project, I think it's out of Harvard, does not attempt to anonymize the data because they say specifically it's going to be impossible. But this genomic data is so valuable to medicine and to researchers, they asked volunteers to step forward and say, look, here's my genome, here's all my allotype information, all my phenotype information, all my illnesses, all my medical history, and it's public under my name because this information is so valuable to science. And at this point, I guess we're maybe all participating in that. I tried to get in. They wouldn't let me. But I thought this was worthwhile. And, the fact that my information would be public to me did not seem to be sufficient harm.
Why wouldn't they let you?
I don't know. I mean, I applied. Didn't say no, not you. They just never let me do it.
You.
Yeah. Application at Harvard has been declined.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be the first time. It's the second time, and Harvard. You broke my heart twice. Hey, let's wrap this thing up because I know everybody wants to go to dinner, and there's probably a great TV show on. Is there anything, Christina, that I'm missing? Game of Thrones isn't back yet, right?
I know. I don't know. I've been watching a lot of stuff on Netflix, but I haven't really found anything new since what was the Gillian Flynn show that was on HBO over the summer.
Incredible
I like that.
Sharp Objects. I
really like that.
What do you think of the ending of that, though? Kind of ended abruptly, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. But it was good.
If you read the novel, it was the same ending, I guess.
Oh, Rolando in IRC just pointed out, and this is absolutely correct. The Good Place. The Good Place season 3 is out now.
Everybody's loving that show.
It is. You know what? It is. It's like the spiritual successor to like The Office, Community, Parks and Rec. Yeah. It's that show, and it's really good. My husband is really, really into it, and I really love it too. So yeah, I highly recommend The Good Place.
Amazon Prime has been going crazy with new stuff. There's a new comedy that's kind of reminds me of The Good Place called Forever that I highly recommend.
Fred Armisen and Maya Rudolph. Yeah.
Yes. Have you seen it?
I watched the first couple episodes, and we got to catch up.
It's pretty funny.
My DVD player broke that had the Amazon thing through it, so I got to dig out my Fire Stick to finish watching it.
And Anthony Weiner has a new episodic show called The Romanoffs, which
Matt Weiner, not Anthony.
Matt Weiner. I'm sorry, the guy who did Mad Men. Anthony Weiner. You don't want to see anything Anthony Weiner's got to show. No.
The documentary on him was really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. That they did during the campaign before, Oh,
I saw that. That was wild. He was talking about it. It's crazy. Speaking of documentaries, and I mentioned this before, but if you haven't yet watched the Fred Rogers, the Mr. Rogers documentary.
Yes.
I saw it in the theater. That was heartbreaking.
Bawling my eyes out. It was
great.
Good. All right. And
the Romanovs on Amazon. I haven't started yet, but I'm very excited. That just came out on Friday.
It's really interesting. We watched the first episode. I guess each episode will be a different story, all of them of people who think they're descendants of the Tsar of Russia, awesome. Anastasia. Of course, none of them are.
The cast is crazy. The cast is great because it's Matthew Weiner, so there's a lot of Mad Men along. John Slattery, but like Noah Wiley, and really good cast.
So far I've only seen the first one, which I loved, and we'll be watching more of those. So, yeah, there's some good stuff. Amazon, I thought it was interesting. The Amazon Prime is taking advantage of this, kind of lapse from HBO and nothing going on.
Well, this is the first year. I'm a huge TV watcher, and every year I sit down with the Entertainment Weekly fall TV preview, and I make my list. And I used to do a spreadsheet with grids, and each day when I'm watching. and this year was the first year where I literally had no new TV shows to add.
How is that
there was
possible?
Nothing.
Because all the talent is on streaming.
Yeah, exactly. Like I discount streaming.
Because literally, between Netflix and Amazon and Apple even is getting into it. How successful Apple will be ultimately, I don't know. But they certainly are hiring the right people. Everybody is signing these massive content deals with the streaming services. HBO is one of the only ones that can still retain people. Everybody else, like why would you sign with NBC when you could sign with Amazon?
Well, the big checks are coming these days from Apple. And CNBC had quite a scoop saying that Apple's planning to give away all this original content it's been buying as part of a new digital TV strategy. They want you to use the TV application on Apple TV and your iPhone. And I would be thrilled. I mean, they have signed huge names to create content for this service. If they gave it away to Apple TV and Apple iPhone and Apple iPad owners, that would change the equation, I think, quite a bit. It's an interesting...
They're already giving away the carpool karaoke thing.
They can give that away till the cows come home.
Yeah, they can.
And the dumb startup show. What was that dumb startup show?
App.
Oh, my God.
They're going for a more like family-friendly
Planet is
that's
the app.
part of the problem
So
Apple
it's not
has.
the HBO.
Maybe they have to give it away because they don't want sex or violence.
Yeah.
They killed the Dr. Dre
Which
biopic.
seemed amazing. Well, what's interesting because they did sign they signed a deal with the Always Sunny in Philadelphia guys, and I mean they're
That's gonna
fantastic.
be wild, right?
But how like even the stuff that they've done for networks that weren't FX or FXX is usually I mean it's fine for network TV, but it's pushing boundaries a little bit. It's hardly family friendly. Completely. So I wonder. I mean, and this is what a lot of people have kind of been saying is they don't know how this is going to work with creators are signing these deals and don't necessarily know what freedom they have. Like the advantage you have with HBO is basically nothing's off limits, and Amazon and Netflix have kind of followed suit with that, and so it'll be interesting to see how you can get people with a lot of talent, how much money can kind of persuade them to maybe not have as much creative freedom.
Apple has 19 shows in the works. A Spielberg reboot of Amazing Stories is coming. They signed Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston for a morning show drama series.
Which sounds like a great idea.
Something from the Battlestar Galactica guy. I'd love to see him back on TV.
Great. Yep.
Or
same.
Ronald D. Moore. Don't know if it'll be Battlestar Galactica-like, but maybe. Octavia Spencer and Are You Sleeping? That's from Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine Company. A thing called Home from, I think, who are these guys? Matt Turnauer and Corey Reeser. Those names are so familiar. Well, this is all, great. Damien Chazelle got a show with him. I was talking about how I didn't like the Neil Armstrong movie, First Man. From the director of The Hunger Games, a Kristen Wiig comedy series.
Also, Hello Sunshine.
We love her. Little America from Kumail Nanjiani and Emily V. Gordon, the Big Sick creators. Swagger from Kevin Durant of the Golden State Warriors. Another drama series for M. Night Shyamalan, which would be amazing. You Love Bob's Burgers, right? Central Park, written by Lauren Bouchard.
Lauren Richter, Lauren Bouchard, yeah.
Creator of Bob's Burgers. They've got a lineup, and Oprah's in there too, right?
Yeah, with the O Network, they're doing so much stuff with Apple and Oprah. But this is just another page in the big problem with the emergence of the streaming services, which is I hate to make the reference, but it's the Springsteen 57 channels and nothing's on, right? There's so much, it's a flood of content to the point where there's no marketing behind any of these. And I mean, like I have all the streaming services. I'm a huge TV and movie watcher. I'm a huge fan of Christopher Guest. Did you know that his latest movie was on Netflix?
No.
Nope. I didn't know.
How would you know?
Exactly.
Well,
part of that's Netflix's completely crap app.
But they all do. I mean, at least Amazon's buying Subway ads here in New York for like Ms. Maisel and stuff like that. But but the problem is that they release shows on such a frenetic pace, and there's a burst of for a couple of days, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I honestly think that's why I like what Hulu does, where they often will do the weekly release schedule. They don't just dump it all at once and let you binge. I think that's a good model in a lot of cases.
That's what Amazon's doing with the Romanov site.
Exactly. Right, which is the right way to do it. I think. Like, I think that you build people coming back, and
I'm
so much
surprised
TV.
to hear you say that because I love binge watching, and
I think binge watching is bad. It's not a good experience.
Oh.
I think binge watching is good if the show is written to be binged. I think that it's not as good if it was, which is what happened early on, which is if it's created episodically and then people wind up binging it. But I don't know. I just feel like there's to Ron's point, there's so much content out there that you don't have the time to binge it all. I like at least having to, if I can do it on my own time, that's great. But what makes television, and I think what makes HBO in particular still really relevant, is that that you've got to tune in at this certain time, or that this week they're going to come out with the new episode and you'll find time to watch it.
Rather than viewing.
Exactly, because if it's always there, if I know I can just watch the whole thing, I'm much more likely to not bother.
Well, I'm just going to say that every show we do on Twit is written to be binged. I hope you'll binge us today. Thank you so much, Christina. Great to have you. Christina Warren, Senior Cloud Dev Advocate. I love saying that for Microsoft.
Me too.
Film girl. You can catch her on Channel 9 at Microsoft, but also whenever we can right here. Thank you, Christina.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Mark Milian from Bloomberg Business Week. He's technology editor. He's at Mark Milian on Twitter, and it's always a pleasure. What are you working on? Anything exciting coming up? Just the usual? You file every day?
I edit every day.
You edit every day?
Yes.
Oh, you're an editor now. You don't have to. You're not in the trenches anymore.
Don't get my name out there.
You get the blue pencil and you just going like that all the time.
Exactly.
Nice. It's great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
And of course, Ron Richards. Every 4 years, whether we need to or not, we're going to get you on the. No, I'm sorry that we haven't.
Listen. I know Flo wasn't available. It's fine. I'm here.
No, we love you, Ron. You'll catch him on All About Android at RonXO. We do Twit every Sunday afternoon. I look forward to it all week. Like, I can't wait to get together with my buddies. And, God, I wonder what they think about this. I hope you feel the same. It's 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 2200 UTC. If you want to tune in, you can go to twit.tv/live. You can also join our studio audience. We had a bunch of great people. Robert from Maryland. We had Ron and Ann visiting from Colorado. And Tracy, nice to see you. Ivan was here. He's the voice of IBM's Watson, I believe. No, but he is a big data researcher and artificial intelligence expert. We had a great conversation before the show. Mike and Natalia visiting from Bristol, England. Was it okay, Natalia? Yeah, I'm her nightmare. She hears my voice in her head. I wonder why. And Frantic from Syracuse. Thank you all for coming by. We really appreciate it. If you want to be in studio, we'll put a chair out for you. Just email tickets at twit.tv. Of course, you have to be in the Petaluma area up here in Northern California. We're about an hour north of San Francisco. So if you're coming to San Francisco or the wine country, we're perfectly situated, and we'd love to have you here. You can also get on-demand copies of everything we do at Twit. Written for Binge. Written to Binge, baby, at twit.tv. You probably wouldn't want to binge our shows. Even one episode basically is a binge. I mean, they're long enough. Just to go to twit.tv, you can either download them there or, thanks to Cashfly, or subscribe in your favorite podcast application. We have instructions at twit.tv/subscribe, but I bet you could figure it out. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Another Twit.
This is amazing.
Bye-bye.
Doing the Twit.